Hello, hi, welcome to stream. വേറൊന്നും ഇതല്ല ഞാൻ ചോദിച്ചത്. So ഇന്നത്തെ title is very obvious. Apparently, the beef between Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis. I think എനിക്കത് പേര് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് അറിയത്തില്ല, but yeah. So അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞാൻ ഇന്നത്തെ ടൈറ്റിൽ ഇങ്ങനെ ഇട്ടത്. Like immediately I heard about this and this like Shascam 2 was the like idea. I don't know about, but I mean, yeah, both are pieces of shit. But I guess Logan lost a bit harder, in my opinion. If I had to support a site, I'd go for Dylan Dennis. Even though I don't endorse it, I'm just saying, if I had to pick the lesser evil, I would most probably pick that guy. But if it's a fight, I guess Logan would win. I guess, I'm not very sure. Anyways, ഇന്നലെ സ്ട്രീം ഇല്ലായിരുന്നു ബിക്കോസ് ഇന്നലെ ഞാൻ ഔട്ട് ഓഫ് സ്റ്റേഷൻ ആയിരുന്നു. ആസ് ഇന്നലെ ഇതുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, ലൈക്ക് ഫോർ ഓണം പരിപാടിയൊക്കെ ആയിട്ട് ഓഫീസിൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഞാൻ ചെറുതായി സ്ലോലി ടേണിങ് ഇൻ ടു ഇൻട്രോവേർട്ട്. ഐ ആം വെരി കൺസേൺഡ് അബൌട്ട് മൈ വെയിറ്റ് എ മിനിറ്റ്. ചുമ്മാ അല്ല നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഡെസ്ക്ടോപ്പ് ഓഡിയോ കേൾക്കാത്തത്. Hello, I think now you should be able to. Yes, okay. ഇപ്പം മനസ്സിലായി. ഇപ്പോൾ I get it. ഇപ്പം I get it now. Okay. Anyways, let's go. At least എൻ്റെ മൈക്ക് വർക്ക് ആവുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, so hopefully that കേട്ട് കാണും.
Match found.
But yeah. Anyways, my bottle of Coca-Cola is over. Time to buy a new one, I guess. ഒരു ദിവസം കളിക്കാത്തതുകൊണ്ട് എനിക്ക് പെർഫോമൻസിന് എന്തെങ്കിലും But yeah, anyways, in other news, Chandrayaan, let's go. എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ? The dark side of the moon. അവിടെ മൈക്കിൾ ബേ പടം പിടിച്ച് നിൽക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. But anyways, ഏത് പ്രാണി? What the fuck? Anyways, I guess big moment for India, I guess, in ISRO. Not India. I don't know why India should take credit for ISRO, but yeah. Big moment for ISRO, I guess. I guess now on to some more interesting
Sony wished to fire Andrew Garfield due to his speaking out about the production studio and refusal to meet them for company events. After a lengthy silence, Sony and Marvel revealed on the 9th of February 2015 that they would work together to produce a new Spider-Man series set in the MCU, and that the Amazing Spider-Man franchise was cancelled. And that leads us to today. With the highly anticipated Spider-Man No Way Home just around the corner, it'll be very interesting to see where they go with the character. So yeah guys, that is my very lengthy review of these two movies. Let me know if you agreed or disagreed with anything that I said. I think my final thoughts are, I liked the first one more, but surprisingly the second one I found more entertaining to watch. Even though it's worse, it's just a blast, you know? The movie is pretty awful in a lot of ways, but it's really fun. They did go a little overboard with the lovey-dovey scenes, I think, but then again, they needed to do that to make Gwen Stacy's death more impactful, so it makes sense. Let me know what you'd like me to review next in the comment section down below. Thank you so much to all my patrons that make videos like this possible, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
പുല്ല്.
Today, we are looking at the two Venom movies. Venom. I like how that Eminem song just completely derailed the legacy of the Venom movies. It turned it into a big meme. At this point, most of you probably don't care about the Venom movies, but you know me, I love talking about things that are no longer relevant. Because I'm a YouTuber and I know how to get views. I even got a shirt for the occasion, okay? Give me some props. The first movie was directed by Ruben Fleischer, or Fleischer. I think it's Fleischer. The same guy that directed Zombieland, a movie that I liked a lot.
I don't give a fuck what you like.
The sequel, though, not so much. There were 3 writers for the first movie, one of which is Scott Rosenberg, who wrote the screenplay for both Con Air and Gone in 60 Seconds, 2 of Nick Cage's classics. So if this guy's behind Venom, you know it's just an automatic masterpiece. That was until I found out he was an executive producer on Cowboy Bebop, the Netflix remake. Ooh.
What the actual fuck?
The second writer is Kelly Marcel, who also wrote the screenplay for the 50 Shades of Grey movie. You scandalous thing you. Ooh, dirty. She also wrote the story for that Emma Stone Cruella movie. Do you guys remember that one? She was also the only writer to move on to the second Venom movie. And I think the writing for the second movie took a nosedive.
Death to you, father. Not you, father. You, father.
Then there's Jeff Pinkner, who wrote the 2 new Jumanji movies. I hear they're pretty decent. I haven't seen them myself. But Jeff Pinkner was also an executive producer on the Cowboy Bebop remake. The first Venom movie released in the 30th anniversary of Venom's debut in Marvel Comics. And the movie starts with a spacecraft crashing to Earth and the symbiote breaking free. John Jameson is the astronaut who survived the shuttle crash. In the Marvel Comics, he becomes Man-Wolf after finding the Moonstone on the moon, which attaches to him similar to a symbiote. Just like this guy, there's a bunch of people from the comics peppered in throughout these movies. That's part of the fun, I think, for a comic book reader when they go and watch a movie like this. They like to try and find all those little Easter eggs that might have been in the comics. I think in some instances, the filmmakers make that like the priority. They try and make the comic book fans happy and sort of forget to make a good movie in the process. According to a Cinema Blend interview with the director, there was an earlier version of the first Venom movie that showed Venom's home planet full of symbiotes. I'm not sure if I would have liked that. So we're introduced to Eddie Brock. He's a reporter, and he's reporting on a bunch of stuff. Anne Wang, Eddie's girlfriend from the comics, is in this, and she's played by Michelle Williams. She's a great actress. She was wonderful in My Week with Marilyn, Blue Valentine, and Manchester by the Sea. In the movie, Anne Wang works for a law firm called Michelini and McFarlane. These are the names of Venom's creators, David Michelini and Todd McFarlane. I really like the casting of Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock. Although he isn't as blonde as his comic book counterpart, but he has the same like masculine features. In the comics, Eddie Brock is a very masculine person, but his hair is kind of goofy. In the Lethal Protector comics, he has this like blonde military mullet. It's kind of like if you took Guile's haircut from Street Fighter, but then threw a mullet on him. Yeah, that's what Eddie Brock looks like. I'm happy that they didn't make him look this way. The more recent version of Venom from the comics looks more like Thor than anyone else. He's got like long blonde hair and a blonde beard. And while I was reading those comics preparing for this video, there's a part where Thor and Eddie are both on the same page, and they look identical. It's like they're twins or something. Okay, I gotta get something off my chest. Maybe I liked these movies more than other people did. I just gotta come out and say it. I just like Tom Hardy in movies. It's as simple as that. Inception, Dark Knight Rises, Locke, Mad Max Fury Road, Peaky Blinders, Dunkirk, The Revenant, Bronson, Band of Brothers, Layer Cake. Everything this guy touches, I love, okay? So when I saw that he was playing Venom, I was like, hell yeah, it's gonna be sick. And granted, when I saw it, you know, they're not perfect, okay? And I can't wait for that random guy to comment on this video. Oh my God, looks like Elvis hasn't seen this random Tom Hardy movie that sucks. I watched some interviews with Tom Hardy, and the guy is hilarious. He just doesn't give a shit about interviews.
Do you find it hard for celebrities to talk to their media about their
The hunt begins.
Do you just fanboy out? Like you get on set and go, oh, I loved you in the Batman movie. I loved you in the Rogue One. No. the bridge.
Tom Hardy's son is a
Spike
huge
down,
fan of
B.
Venom. That played a part in Hardy wanting to take on the role. I think it's really cool being able to play one of your son's favorite characters
One
from the
enemy
comics. If
remaining.
your dad's an actor, that would be like your dream, right? To see him play one of your favorite characters. I also read online that his son helped guide him on how to appropriately portray Brock and Venom.
Last
Carl
round
Drake, the
before
big
the
baddie
switch.
in this movie, is played by Riz Ahmed. I'm not a huge fan of his casting. This guy's a good actor. He was incredible in Sound of Metal. In fact, I love that movie. Go watch that if you haven't. Kind of random, but yeah, it's good. It's just when I think of like a big corpse suited evil guy, this doesn't come to mind. He doesn't look very intimidating. Obviously, he can't control that, you know? Like, that's just how he looks. But overall, I think he did what he could with the role. Carlton Drake in this movie is not very similar to his comic book counterpart. In fact, he's kind of more like Elon Musk, builds rockets, and he does random stuff to try and make the world better. And one of those random things is curing cancer. So maybe he's not like Elon Musk. That's giving him way too much credit. But yeah, he cured pancreatic cancer. So right away, that takes a lot of evil points away from this guy, you know? Like, he could have slaughtered 5 people in his backyard with a butcher knife, but if he saved 500,000 more that would have died from cancer, I mean, you know, like, Eddie really doesn't like this guy for some reason. He just has a feeling that he's bad. I should also mention that Drake has cancer in the comics. In the comics, Brock also has cancer, but in this movie, neither of them do. In the comics, Eddie Brock makes his big break by reporting on a serial killer named Sin Eater. But then Spider-Man reveals to the world that this person was not actually Sin Eater, disgracing Eddie. Eddie is then fired from the Daily Globe, and he falls into a deep depression. He also has a lot of issues with his father, who never showed him any affection when he was younger, and all he wants to do is prove himself to him. Of course, losing his job didn't help with that, and after this, his father didn't speak to him at all. So Eddie blames all of his misfortune on Spider-Man.
Switching
Spider-Man
sides.
rids himself of the symbiote. It falls onto Eddie. Obviously, Eddie hates Spider-Man, and the symbiote only fuels his hatred, and their big rivalry begins. So it must have been a huge challenge trying to create a movie about this character that only exists because of Spider-Man, but then make a movie about him without Spider-Man in it. Then there's a scene when Anne and Eddie are out to dinner, and she hints that the whole thing that happened in NYC between Eddie and the Daily Globe had already happened, and this movie takes place afterwards when Eddie sought a new life in San Francisco. They don't mention Spider-Man, so it's unknown whether or not he had anything to do with the fact that Eddie was run out of NYC. But then again, this is the Sony universe, and the live-action Spider-Man is Tom Holland at this point, and he's in the Marvel universe. Yeah, this movie went through production hell, because it was during the whole, like, weird Spider-Man era, where they weren't really sure where to go with the character, and then Sony made a deal with Marvel. They threw him into the MCU to bring new hype to the character because they had the whole Infinity War thing going on. So unfortunately, we didn't get him in the Venom movie, which is very weird because a Venom without Spider-Man normally doesn't work because Spider-Man is like the entire reason Venom exists in the first place. That being said, the Donny Cates run of Venom I thought was amazing, and while they included Spider-Man, it was a Venom story. So I'm not saying it's impossible to make a good Venom story, but for this movie, it kind of just feels like they tried to create the Venom story without Spider-Man, which made it just a weaker story. And I know a lot of people like to think that the comics are some like holy grail, right? Like you have to follow the comic. You make a movie, you gotta follow the comics or else it'll be bad. I don't think that's true. Movies tell stories way differently than comics do. That's why it's kind of awkward to make a live action version of a comic book, because in a comic book, these characters are constantly talking while they're fighting, but you can kind of imagine it in your head and it makes sense. And comic books can be very stupid too. It's not just the movies, okay? They can be very cheesy, very silly, outrageous, and stupid. Sometimes the cheesy stuff in comics makes them endearing. Other times it's just flat out bad. Sometimes the artwork sucks. Sometimes the writing sucks. Sometimes they just completely forget the hair color of the main character. In the Donny Cates Venom comics, there's a part when Venom gets super old. He's got gray hair. Look at this picture that I took. On the left, he has gray hair, and on the next page, his hair is just magically blonde. But if you keep reading, it just turns gray again. So the power levels in the comics make no sense. They're all over the place. And as a reader, you just kind of have to roll with it. There's even an issue where Venom almost defeats Spider-Man and Superman simultaneously. And if you know anything about Superman, that makes Venom insanely strong. But it's a comic book, so it's okay. But can you imagine if they tried to do that in a film? He would be up in arms. He'd be like, this is the dumbest shit ever. More recently, Venom just becomes a god of all the symbiotes. What I'm trying to say is comics are crazy. They're insane. So I think it's okay when people take a movie and they do their own thing with it. And sometimes I think it can be a hindrance to the movie if they try too hard to be faithful to the comics. All that being said, Where was I don't know. So since
Last
I
player
explained
standing.
that what happened in
Spike
New
down
York
A.
already happened,
Don't want to repeat
Repeat.
of the Daily Globe incident.
that means if they want to introduce Spider-Man to this version of Venom, they're going to have to create a fresh new origin to their rivalry, which is kind of a shame because I think the original version was perfectly fine, and whether or not
30
we'll actually
seconds
see
left.
Tom Hardy's Venom with Spider-Man in the future, that remains to be seen. I'm not holding my breath. It would be nice to see. Some people online are pushing for an Amazing Spider-Man 3 movie with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man versus Tom Hardy's Venom, which I would love to see, and it would be very interesting to see how they would make that happen, and it would be really cool to give Andrew his third movie. As
10
if this
seconds
video
left.
couldn't be derailed further. I just like to be very thorough and cover a bunch of random subjects when I talk about a movie, and I think it makes the
Defenders
videos more interesting rather than just going through the video verbatim and picking it apart like I used to. I'll still do that to some degree, but this version of Eddie Brock is a massive dumbass. I know he's not the smartest person in the world in the comics, and he's clearly not the best reporter, but yeah, just wait. He scours through his wife's email while she's asleep, and he finds out that Carlton Drake has been up to some nefarious stuff. When he's going through Anne's emails, there's an email from someone named Bodhi, which is interesting because Riz Ahmed played a character named Bodhi in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So Eddie landed this massive interview with Drake, and his boss told him specifically not to fuck it up. So what does he do? He derails it hard, and he confronts him about these allegations. There were 3 people that died, and he like names them off, and Drake is like, oh god, shut down the camera. When he found out this information, he didn't bother asking his wife about it. He didn't think about
Match
asking
found.
her whether or not she would like to come out and talk about this. He didn't ask her if he could use her as a source against Drake, or discuss with her at all how they could use the information against him. He just stole this confidential information, used it in an interview, and didn't think at all about the repercussions of that. Even if he miraculously pulled off this interview without any repercussions and got Drake to confess on camera, I'm pretty sure people would forgive his company for the accidental deaths of 3 people if he cured cancer. I love how they just put that in this movie as if it's inconsequential. Like, that's kind of a huge deal. Now, I know if someone does a great thing and then they do a shitty thing, they should still be called out for that shitty thing, you know, and they should still be condemned for that shitty thing. But still, like, come on. I guess Eddie Brock just didn't learn his lesson at all back in New York City.
Ow, really?
Then Anne dumps Eddie because in stealing these files, he got her fired from her job. There's a scene where Carlton Drake tells a little girl at a field trip that it's not wrong to ask questions and warns the kids that there will be those who try to silence the questioners, even though he never let her finish her question. And barely a scene later, he gets uncomfortable when Eddie asks him a question concerning his dirty laundry and has him kicked out of the premises. Hypocrite. Unbelievable. Then there's a scene of Drake looking at the symbiotes that are all locked away in a vehicle. They're in these little glass containers. But he doesn't seem to care that one of them is missing and wreaking havoc in Malaysia. So yeah, we get to see this evil symbiote killing people in Malaysia, and it's in the body of a younger woman, but then decides to ditch that body for an old frail grandma that uses a cane. Maybe to help disguise itself or something, but then why choose grandma? Surely there's a better host somewhere. And then 6 months pass. Wait, 6 months? 6 months? That's a pretty huge time jump. What was this grandma doing the whole time? Just like wandering the streets? So yeah, Eddie's life is pretty miserable now. He can't even land a job as a dishwasher because no business wants to be associated with him. I think this is bullshit. Do you know how easy it is to get a job as a dishwasher? I do, because I got a job as a dishwasher by just walking into a restaurant and asking if I could be the dishwasher. And they hired me on the spot, and they just put me back there and I started washing dishes. So I'm pretty sure they wouldn't care that Eddie Brock was their dishwasher. This lady that works with Drake witnesses his inhumanity as he begins symbiote human trials, and people die over and over. She tells Eddie, and he eventually agrees to infiltrate the labs and take photos to expose him. She sneaks him in there, and he starts wandering around taking photos. Of course, she tells him not to touch anything. So what does he do? That's right, class. Pat yourselves on the back. Are there any security cameras in this place? I guess not. Maybe she deactivated deactivated them before they went in, I guess. There are literal aliens in this place. Do you know how valuable that would be? But I guess the security is pretty minimal. Drake only finds out that Eddie was the one that broke in by interrogating this woman later in the movie. So yeah, Eddie was really friendly with this homeless lady, and then he finds her locked up in the lab behind some glass, and she's like freaking out, so he breaks the glass. So I guess that glass isn't very strong. You think you would have some pretty strong glass to,
One enemy
contain this
remaining.
alien?
Last
So she
player
attacks
standing.
him, and the symbiote gets bonded to Eddie. With the help of the symbiote, Eddie's able to escape. So obviously, this is much different than his more well-known origin story. Apparently, this movie is based off of 2 comic book runs, very loosely based: Lethal Protector and Planet of the Symbiotes. It's kind of funny to me because Spider-Man has a massive role in both of those comics. I can kind of understand a Venom movie later down the road without Spider-Man. You know, when he's matured a little bit, he's doing things on his own now, he's not as evil, he's learned from his mistakes, and he's trying to take down bad guys himself, but in a more lethal fashion than what Spider-Man would do. And that's a big thing in the comics. He's always comparing the way he takes down bad guys to the way Spider-Man takes down bad guys. He's always more than okay with killing people, and Spider-Man is there to stop him. So when you lose that dynamic between these 2 characters, it weakens Venom by a lot. Is it impossible to make a good Venom story without Spider-Man? No. Like I said before, the Donny Cates Venom story is one of my favorites, but that story is more in line with like the movie Logan, but on a much bigger scale. It just has that same tone. It's just a Venom origin story without Spider-Man is so weird. And I'm pretty sure that if they waited a little while to make the Venom movie, you know, post very low, so you can use Spider-Man, it would be people would be they weren't sure how they like 10 years, because who knows when they can use Spider-Man again. And just think of how cool a Venom movie with Spider-Man in it would be. The movie is through Venom's perspective, so we can experience it kind of similar to how they did it in Spider-Man 3, but with the movie focused on Venom, they could really try and make the viewer see Spider-Man as a villain, make us feel for Eddie Brock. I think that would be very interesting. It would have just been so much better than what we got with this movie. But alas, the world is not perfect, so this is what we got to work with. In this movie, Venom is very hungry, and it is silly. Oh yes, it's very silly. And remember the old Granny symbiote? Well, in this scene, she's wandering around an airport looking greasy and grumpy. It's hilarious. Oh my god. Why does this symbiote like the grandma so much? There's so many people around. Oh no, it finally does take over somebody else. And guess who it is? It's a little girl, dude! Like an 8-year-old girl. This symbiote is so weird. It like seeks out the weakest people and then bonds with them. I really enjoyed the unhinged restaurant scene where Eddie takes a bath in the lobster tank, pulls out a lobster and starts chowing down on it. Jumping in the tank was actually Tom Hardy's idea, so they had to get a new, bigger tank. And I really like this scene because I despise fancy restaurants. But that's just me. Watching Tom Hardy fling himself around wildly as if a symbiote is controlling him is very entertaining. From the BTS footage I've seen, it looks like filming these scenes must have been a blast, but also extremely challenging, because you kind of have to imagine where the tendrils are going to be. Film the scenes and then have the tendrils put in post. I'm sorry, but I have to mention this. In this scene, Venom says this: "I know everything about you. I'm in your head."
I know everything, Eddie. I am inside your head.
In literally the next scene, Venom asks Eddie, "Who is Anne?"
Who is Anne?
What? I thought you knew everything.
Wait. Seek them out.
3A. Reyna, 3A, Reyna, 3A. Reyna! What was that?
One enemy remaining.
You were charming, but not as clever as you think.
Switching sides.
Raina, still hungry?
Reyna!
Miss out some game for ya. I'm out of here. Go, go, go!
Hawk out!
Enemy mid.
One enemy remaining.
Sorry guys, എനിക്ക് കോൾ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു കോൾ. സോറി. I'll be back. ഹലോ ജിംബ്രോ, ഹായ്. സോറിയടാ, ഞാൻ ഇപ്പോഴാണ് ഇത് കണ്ടത്. സ്ട്രീം ചാറ്റ് ഐ ഗസ്. അയ്യോ സോറി അളിയാ. ഹൈ. സോറി. ഞാൻ എന്തോന്നാണ് മ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്തിട്ട് പോയത്.
Dude, and he should know everything. You know, he's in his body. He absorbs everything about Eddie. His thoughts. He's literally inside his mind. So Drake is able to force this woman to tell him that Eddie was the one that stole the symbiote. And the scene of the symbiote using Eddie's body and taking down Drake's henchman is legitimately an awesome scene. The work these people put in to make Venom real is so cool to watch. And it only gets more impressive as the movie goes on. The bike chase scene is so sick. I think it's my favorite scene in the entire movie. There's one part when they go off a huge jump, so they had to film Tom Hardy on cables flying away from the bike and then back onto the bike, and then they filmed a stunt guy perform the actual jump and then use VFX to put it all together. And this is for like a 5-second sequence. It's craziness. When we finally see Venom come to life, he immediately bites someone's head off and speeds away, bouncing off cars like a massive gorilla. It's great. This is the Venom that I wish we got for Spider-Man 3. But then Eddie and the symbiote talk, and it kind of ruins things for me a little bit. In these movies, the symbiote is named Venom. Like, that's just the symbiote's name. But in the comics, when the symbiote and Eddie fuse together, that's when they become Venom. You know, Venom didn't exist until they bonded together. And when Eddie talks about the symbiote, he just refers to it as his other, or the other. That's why Venom's very popular phrase is, "We are Venom," because they both say it together when they're about to do something crazy in the comics. And it's weird because they even say that at the end of the movie. It's the movie's way of being like, we're really bonding now. The symbiote and Eddie really like each other, so we are Venom, not just the symbiote. I'm guessing they changed it for the movie so Eddie could call it Venom when they spoke to each other instead of saying my other or the other, which would kind of be awkward. And it makes it so they don't have to come up with the name Venom. The symbiote can just introduce itself as Venom, and you're like, okay. Eddie blames Spider-Man for his now tarnished career. Unable to work for legitimate newspapers, Eddie was forced to write sensationalistic tabloid stories. He felt the garbage stories he was spewing out were Venom, laying the groundwork for his awesome new name. Since he blamed Spider-Man for his lousy job, he decided Venom would be a great way to show his hatred for the web slinger. I kind of like that version more than, hey, I'm a symbiote and my name is Venom randomly. In this movie, Venom doesn't have a path to villainy. The symbiote simply has aggressive and animalistic tendencies, and Eddie has to deal with them, turning them into a slapstick duo. When they first introduced the symbiote in the 616 series of comics, it doesn't have any adverse effects on Spider-Man. In fact, the black suit only improves his abilities and doesn't have any impact on his aggression or emotions. However, in later comics, the symbiote is much more aggressive. This movie is obviously leaning very heavily into the evil protector side of Venom, but in my opinion, his character arc in this movie is less impactful because his redemption arc has nothing to do with hating Spider-Man and everything to do with his idiotic and impulsive decisions as a reporter. The absence of Spider-Man in this movie also means the absence of the iconic white spider symbol on Venom's chest and no white patches on his hands that he normally uses to shoot webbing. Instead, he has cum running through his veins. But I still think he looks way better than he did in Spider-Man 3. He just has that more iconic, big, muscly black. So yeah, Venom bounces his way up a skyscraper. I think this would have been a great opportunity to put in some comedy. I know that comedy is already a huge part of this movie, so they don't need it, but it would have been fun to see someone working at their desk in this building, only to have their window and wall busted open by a massive alien gorilla scaling the building. I loved watching Venom take down the SWAT team. This is such a cool scene. The sound of the gunshots doesn't affect him because they aren't the correct frequency, but the flashbangs weaken him. The guys in charge of the VFX in this movie absolutely killed it. Tom Hardy didn't just voice Eddie, he also voiced Venom. He recorded his lines for the Venom symbiote during pre-production, and they were played back to the actor through an earpiece on set during the scenes where Brock and the symbiote talk to each other. Another really neat part of this movie is when the SWAT team was surrounding Venom. One officer yells, "Mask," and another goes, "Copy." Later in the movie, Eddie says the same thing, "Mask," and the symbiote says, "Copy."
Mask! Copy! Mask! Copy!
It's just a cute little thing that they put in there. I think it's only fair to see this movie as a different universe of Venom, just a different version of him altogether. Don't try and think of these movies as like an adaptation of the comics, because they aren't. If you read the Lethal Protector series, it's not gonna be the same, like at all, you know? It's completely different. So it's kind of weird when people ask the director, hey, what comics is this movie based off of? And he gives them an answer as if it's gonna be at all related, when he really should have said, it's a new Venom story with some of the characters from the comics, because that's what it is. So Eddie is separated from the symbiote in a lab with the help of Anne and her new boyfriend. Then Eddie is stolen away by Drake's henchmen. I find it kind of funny that Tom Hardy's interpretation of Eddie is so whispery.
Yeah, look at you now. Now you're dying too.
Can't hear you.
I'm not sure if it has anything to do with the fact that Tom Hardy normally sounds like this.
Then also there's my son.
One
and,
enemy
he's a
remaining.
massive Venom fan.
So maybe whispering a bunch helped him maintain his American accent. But in these movies, his character tends to go in whisper mode when he's under a lot of stress.
With one of these creatures.
Some people thought this was stupid and gimmicky. In some circumstances, I find it kind of endearing. It kind of reminds me of someone who is trying to hold in their anger, but they're not doing it very well, so their voice turns into a whisper.
Attackers
In
win.
the comics, Drake literally turns into the spider bug man, and he calls it Homo arachnus. But in the movie, he bonds with a symbiote and becomes Riot. Actually, in the movie, the symbiote is just named Riot, and he bonds with, the Riot symbiote bonds with Drake. I think it's so funny. In the comics, Riot is a child of Venom. Drake like captures Venom in the comics and then takes some of his symbiote off of him and separates them all, and they each bond with a separate host, and they turn into their own versions, and they're effectively Venom's children. Venom has 5 children in the comics, and out of all of them, they chose the one that resembled Venom the most, and they made him the antagonist. So when they fight at the end of the movie, it's just a big black and gray blob. It's hard to distinguish Riot from Venom. Maybe they did that on purpose because they kind of fuse into one near the end of the movie. Maybe that was easier on the effects team because they're both kind of a darker color. I have no idea, but I think it was a very bad decision. Riot is so boring. He's just like a gray version of Venom. And what's even more annoying about this is that they had so many other cool options that they could have used. They could have used Lasher, who's green. At least when they were fighting, you could tell who was who. I think they should have used Scream, which is a female symbiote. She's like a combination of yellow and red, and she's the strongest of the Life Foundation symbiotes. And not only that, she was the only one of note in the comics. There's a part when she fights Spider-Man, and then she joins up with the rest of Venom's children, and then they all fight Venom and Spider-Man. Maybe they're saving her for a future movie. Then there's a scene in the woods where Anne saves Eddie by becoming Venom herself, which is pretty neat because this happens in the comics, and she's particularly badass in the Donny Cates run of Venom. In a different run, she takes her own life because she's so disgraced by what the symbiote made her do. So yeah, at the end, Drake is trying to launch a rocket into space as Riot, and then he kills like everybody who's helping him launch the rocket when it's about to launch because he doesn't need them anymore, I guess. But why do that? Why not just commandeer the rocket? It'd be nice to have some people on the ground, you know? When you're in space. Who needs them? I'm an alien now. Then we get the fight between Venom and Riot. A mess of dark goop fighting dark goop in the dark. Anne's able to separate them by turning a dial that makes sound. Venom eventually destroys the rocket, carrying Riot, and kills him. As far as the scenes between Eddie and the symbiote in this movie, I liked most of them. Tom Hardy is excellent in the role, and the movie ends in the best way possible. Venom, 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 Venom. Thank you so much to Established Titles for sponsoring this video. Hello, Jeff. We are interrupting this video because I want to tell you how you can become cooler than Joe Rogan. I know you're sitting there watching me right now, Jeff, and you're just not having a good time. You're kind of sad, you know, life could be better. But what if I told you you could become Lord Jeff? It's possible. And not only that, you can be saving the environment at the same time and becoming cooler than Joe Rogan. Do you think Joe Rogan is a Lord? No, he isn't. But you can be one, Jeff.
The things you're saying are crazy. It's fascinating the way you think.
You wouldn't need to be an expert
expert in body language to recognize the unmitigated terror emanating from the suspect's face at this moment.
Established Titles is a project based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds, or lords and ladies in English. They allow people to buy as little as 1 square foot of dedicated land so that they can call themselves a lord or lady. In return, Established Titles commits to planting a tree with every order to protect the beautiful pristine woodlands of Scotland. Their primary goal is to provide a fun way to help preserve the picturesque woodlands and biodiversity of Scotland while raising funds to support global afforestation efforts. They support global charities like One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future. So what are you waiting for, Jeff? Get off your couch and become a landowner of Scotland today, Jeff. You can force your mean grandma to refer to you as Lord Jeff. Buy some land in Scotland and become Lord Jeff today. I can't think of better revenge. Their title packs give you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Ardally, Aberdeenshire, Scotland. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. You get a certificate proving your title as well as a unique plot number with which you can see the exact location of your land. This is also like the best last minute gift ever. Say Grandpa Jerry's birthday is tomorrow and you totally forgot to get him something. Well, wouldn't it be hilarious and honestly pretty cool to buy him some land from Scotland? You can even give a couple pack for you and your partner where you can get adjoining plots of land. Getting this certificate, you could officially change your name to Lord or Lady and get it on your credit card or plane tickets, etc. That is honestly hilarious. Imagine if you're late for your flight, Jeff, and you hear over the intercom, Lord Jeff, please make your way to gate 3B. I know I've been kind of joking around, but this is honestly a really cool thing that they're doing. So if this is something that you think you would like, please go and click on the link at the top of the description. Get this for yourself or for a family member, and get the respect that you deserve while helping the environment. Established Titles is currently having a massive Valentine's Day sale just for you guys. And on top of that sale, you can get an additional 10% off any purchase you make with discount code Elvis. So click the link below or go to establishedtitles.com/Elvis. What are you waiting for? It's a no-brainer. Thank you so much to Established Titles for sponsoring this video. Now back to the review. Now we're going to be talking about the second movie, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. I was so hyped for this dude. Oh my god. One of the biggest rivalries ever. There's comics dedicated to Venom versus Carnage. Venom helps fight against Carnage in Maximum Carnage. Basically, Marvel created Carnage because they wanted to make Venom into a good guy. They had to replace Venom with someone that was more evil, and Cletus Cassidy is basically as evil as you can get. He's a psychopath. Eddie was never a truly bad person. He was just in a terrible place and he was out seeking vengeance. And the symbiote also didn't help things. Cletus Cassidy is bad to the bone. He's just a piece of shit. Again, I think this is a movie that would have benefited a lot with the inclusion of Spider-Man. And this movie was directed by Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Yes, literally. Andy Serkis directed this movie. And the story was written by Tom Hardy. I think it's pretty cool that Tom is obviously very passionate about this role. Tom Hardy personally chose Andy Serkis to direct it, having called him on the phone totally out of the blue to ask him to direct the sequel. The choice made perfect sense for him, as Serkis has been directing heavily CGI-heavy films, including Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle, and he was the second unit director on the Hobbit movies. This would be Andy Serkis' second theatrical film. In this movie, we're quickly introduced to St. Estes, home for the unwanted children. This is where Cletus was raised as a young boy following the death of his family members. St. Estes Home is taken straight out of the pages of Marvel Comics, although in the comics it's known as St. Estes Home for Boys. Venom 2 changes its subtitle to include all children, allowing the movie to make this where Cletus meets Francis Barrison as a kid. The two characters eventually return to St. Estes and burn it to the ground. In the comics, the location meets a similar fate, and Cletus is believed to have been responsible. It is also the place where Carnage fights Spider-Man for the first time, but obviously that didn't happen in Venom 2. So yeah, in the comics, Cletus Cassidy has a girlfriend in crime named Shriek, and her real name is Frances Barrison. They open the movie by introducing us to their relationship. Shriek is taken away to a place for people like me, because she's a mutant. She tries to escape, she's shot near the left eye, and ends up with a heavy scar. In the comics, they don't give a reasoning for her scarred left eye. Shriek has the ability to manipulate sound in a bunch of elaborate ways. After Shriek leaves St. Estes Home, she becomes a prisoner at Ravencroft Institute. Institute. Frances spends decades at the institution, waiting for Cletus to come and save her. Ravencroft has been a recurring facility in Spider-Man stories ever since it first appeared in 1991. This is the place in the comics where Carnage first meets Shriek, although Venom 2 puts its own spin on that story by making it the place where he rescues her. The facility previously used Ravencroft in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 as a place for Electro to be kept and experimented on. In this movie, Eddie Brock is still having issues controlling his symbiote. Not sure why though, it's been a while, and they still can't cooperate with one another? What? In the comics, they don't have any issues with each other, but like I said before, the comics aren't some like holy grail that the films have to abide by. They can do their own thing completely fine, and I think they should do their own thing, but sometimes I think they make the wrong decisions, and that's not to say that the comics are good and the movies are bad, and that's that. Obviously, there's a lot of nuance here. So then Eddie stops Venom from biting off a cop's head. This is weird because at the end of the last movie, Eddie was shown giving the symbiote boundaries on what it can and can't do. Maybe it just forgot. At least it was an entertaining moment. And I do enjoy watching Eddie bicker with the symbiote. I really like the casting of Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy. His acting is great, and this is the second film where Woody Harrelson plays a sociopathic serial killer. The first was Natural Born Killers. Woody Harrelson had a big voice in deciding his character's wardrobe, and also insisted his hair be more realistic, having hated his wig, which he wore at the end of the first film, because he thought it was a bit amateurish. I like the way Cletus looks in the beginning of this movie, but later on when he cuts his hair and he has this weird thing going on with his bangs are like hanging forward and curled, ooh, it looks bad. It looks really stupid. Now I know Cletus is supposed to be a psychopath, and of course his style is going to reflect that, but I don't know if that's what they were going for. Maybe it was, I don't know, but his hair looks weird later in the movie. Eddie gets a look in at Cletus's room, and on the walls are a bunch of strange carvings, one of which is a tree with part of the poem Prometheus by Lord Byron. There's a bunch of other references on the wall that we'll talk about later.
Oh, I know this one.
You will not kill my ally.
The screenplay in this movie is much cheesier and dumber than it was in the first movie. Case in point with this scene.
Just me. The only scoop pumpkin, double chocolate chip. No, I get brain freeze.
This is a line that might have worked in the comics because people can kind of fill in the blanks with their imagination, but in this movie, it comes off really stupid, and I hated it. So they get home, and the symbiote forces Eddie to redraw everything that was on the walls in Cletus's prison cell. Among the Lord Byron poem, there's a quote by Charles Baudelaire, "The devil pulls the string which makes us dance." Baudelaire was known for his highly controversial and often dark poetry, as well as his translation of the Tales of Edgar Allan Poe. Baudelaires' life was filled with drama and strife, from financial disaster to being prosecuted for obscenity and blasphemy. Long after his death, many look upon his name as representing depravity and vice. His most popular collection of poetry was named Les Fleurs du Mal. I probably butchered that, but in English, it's The Flowers of Evil. So obviously, I can see how Cletus Cassidy would be attracted to Baudelaire's work.
What a dick.
Then there's a bunch of other random references. There's a quote by Plato, "The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light." There's another random quote from Homer, The Odyssey, "There'll be killing till the score is paid." Then there's a sentence said by King Claudius in Hamlet. There's a random quote from Bram Stoker's Dracula. And then there's this strange quote: "Venomous, the thought spun, like a web, and you just caught him. Held against your will, like a hubcap or mud flap. Beat, strangler, attack. Venom, the venom, venom, the venom, venom." Overall, I think it's really fun when directors put a lot of Easter eggs in their movies. It makes a rewatch more fun, and it gives comic fans something to look out for. And it shows that the director really cares about their movie. So the Venom symbiote somehow knows exactly the place that Cletus drew, because there's a photo of the exact area on Google, and Cletus just happened to draw it perfectly on his wall. Does he have photographic memory? And it turns out that this is the area where Cletus buried the bodies of his victims. As if it wasn't obvious, you know, with all the crosses everywhere. Like, what? He clearly wanted to keep that a secret. So Eddie exposes this location, and it's dug up by the police, and the bodies are found. Cletus is then given the death penalty. This is hilarious to me because then they show us a scene of Cletus Cassidy in his cell punching the wall where he carved the location of the bodies that he buried. This guy's an absolute moron. So yeah, I didn't mention this before. Venom requires brains and chocolate to survive. In the comics, brain and chocolate are prime sources for, bear with me, phenethylamine. Phenethylamine. A compound compound that positively affects mood and that Venom needs to live. So Eddie feeds Venom chickens, and Venom doesn't like eating chickens because their brains are so small and it doesn't do anything for him. So Venom ended up naming 2 of the chickens and took a liking to them. So they're pets.
Player standing.
Some people thought this was stupid. I thought it was kind of funny. The chicken thing. In the Maximum Carnage comic series, Carnage and Shriek have an 8-legged Spider-Man doppelganger pet thing. It looks like Spider-Man and it has sharp teeth. They kind of order it around and it fights people for them. I'm so upset it didn't make it into the movie. I think this movie's biggest drawbacks lie in the screenplay. The comedic bits are too drawn out and most of the jokes don't land. I really think Kelly Marcel desperately needs some help with the screenplay. Like there's one scene where Venom is talking about using a guy's head as a bowling ball and they want to go to a bowling alley and use his head as a bowling ball. Maybe this would work in the comics, but in a movie it just comes across really stupid. And don't get me wrong, I know Venom can be very goofy in the comics, and sometimes I think he can be too goofy in the comics, but yeah, that's definitely part of his character. He's goofy, but he's also sinister. He's an anti-hero meathead with a hate boner for Spider-Man, and it's not like when he moves on from Spider-Man the goofiness just kind of ends, because it doesn't. He remains goofy. But even in the comics, I think most of the time he's being serious, throwing in a dumb comment or joke every once in a while. In this movie, he's constantly being weird and saying dumb stuff.
Lucky strike! I will take it to lucky strike!
I wish there were some scenes when the symbiote would just shut the fuck up. You know, it just constantly talks in this movie, non-stop. Give Eddie one scene where the symbiote doesn't butt in, you know? Just one. And it wouldn't be so bad if the symbiote wasn't trying to be a stand-up comedian the entire time. It butts in every 2 seconds with either a cheesy one-liner or some obvious observation.
Awkward.
That isn't to say that I hated every single goofy moment in this movie. There are some that I liked a lot, like when the symbiote makes Eddie breakfast in order to try and cheer him up.
One enemy remaining.
There's little parts here and there that I kind of liked. They're not ingenious lines or anything, but they still kind of landed for me.
Excuse me?
Yeah, well, I don't have an explanation for that.
Thank you, Omen.
It's definitely a weak line, but the way that Tom Hardy delivered it made it good. You know what I mean? The apology scene is so drawn out. Oh my god. And then when the symbiote is walking around at the party, it's just so stupid.
Thank you.
And it doesn't help that there's hardly any scenes in this movie where Venom is being cool or sinister. They went full throttle on the funny and totally forgot that Venom can be cool sometimes. So Eddie receives a weird postcard from Cletus. They play some interesting animations to show Cletus's messed up backstory, which is only partly comic book accurate. In the comics, Cletus's father killed his wife because she tried to kill Cletus. Cletus then testified in court against him, saying that he killed her for no reason, causing him to die by electric chair as means of punishment. It is also unclear on Cletus's relationship with his mother in the comics, as he seems to have feelings for her, causing him to dig up her grave at the end of his massacre through New York. But yeah, the whole pushing his grandmother down the stairs, Eddie decides to visit Cletus one last time to record any sort of last words he might have to say before being executed. During Eddie's interview, Cletus brings up Eddie's strained relationship with his father due to his mother having died while giving birth to him, which was part of his dark and troubled past in the comics. I like the way they gave Cletus the symbiote in this movie. Venom lashing out at Cletus's insults and Cletus biting Eddie's hand in defense. Seems like a natural way for
one enemy remaining.
Venom and Eddie get in a huge disagreement, and Eddie uses a smoke alarm to separate them. The fight between them is pretty entertaining, but then the symbiote jumps from person to person and doesn't harm any of them. Can symbiotes bond with anyone they please? If so, how come some of them die in these movies and others don't? What makes someone compatible with a specific symbiote? I read some places online that it has to do with your blood type and your personality traits and your overall health. But then I've read other places that it doesn't matter at all, and symbiotes can bond with anybody regardless of what kind of person they are. Some people seem to think online that the symbiotes were eating these people because they were starving, and it wasn't an incompatibility issue. I'm pretty sure in the comics the symbiotes can bond with anyone, and then they'll take on the characteristics of the host, and then make the host more aggressive. Later in this movie, it's hinted that Venom killed the host because he was very hungry.
Reloading.
So it just, I don't know how it works. The Carnage reveal is pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. When he breaks out of prison, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. The way he terrorized the prison was so visceral. The CGI wasn't like perfect, but it was still pretty damn good. The effects team did such a good job in these movies. It's damn impressive, especially since these symbiotes move in such crazy ways, and they're always moving. But then Carnage like turns into a tornado, like spins and turns into a tornado, and uses the tornado to break out of the prison. That part is just proof that when they take dumb stuff out of the comics and put it into the movies, it doesn't translate very well. You gotta ground the comics a little bit more in the movies to kind of make them more believable, even though
Last player
the comics
standing.
are crazy. So yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of the tornado thing, but after Cletus exits the prison, he starts singing, and that's something that he does do throughout the comics. So I thought that was pretty cool. When the
30
Venom
seconds
symbiote
left.
enters this party, it bonds to
Defenders
someone
win.
while there's a bunch of people around, and they like fall over and start screaming. And then they turn into a massive alien goop gorilla. And none of the people that were surrounding this person seem to care. Is that something you see every day? I don't think so. I would be very concerned about this. This scene has some of the strangest dialogue. The symbiote literally says, "I am out of the Eddie closet."
I am out of the Eddie closet.
I think this is supposed to represent the symbiote being out there in the public and showing itself with pride and not caring about what people think of it. It's like an LGBT message, I think, which is cool and all, but it still doesn't take away the cheese. There's lots of cheese, very cheesy, but hey, it's Venom. He's cheesy. I get it. Then we get a scene of Cletus buttoning up his new serial killer fit. Hey dude, your tendril is hanging out. Honestly, just looks like an incredibly long, skinless dick. Look at this scene and tell me you disagree, because you don't. He then pulls a Tyler Durden and steals a dude's car. I really love the way Woody Harrelson played this scene.
Hello, dark.
Racer Red got to have it. In the next scene on the bridge, oh my god, I hate his hair right here. This is what I was talking about earlier. Look at his fucking hair. Carnage then throws a random dude's truck off the bridge when there are other cars around. Obviously, they would call the cops if they saw this happen. If I was driving on the bridge and behind me, I saw an octopus arm come out of a car and grab a truck, crush it, and throw it off the bridge, I would speed up by like 50 miles an hour and I would ring the police. Okay? That's what I would do. But I guess they just didn't notice. Maybe they had their AirPods in. And this sucks too, because I like this part.
Match
it demonstrates
found.
Cletus Cassidy's ruthlessness and carelessness. Then we get Venom's speech at the rave.
Thank you.
Oh god. It's cool if you thought this part was cute or whatever, but I personally hate it.
I like this part.
Thank you, one person.
The cop that Eddie Brock is helping to investigate Carnage's escape from prison is named Patrick Mulligan. In the comics, he becomes the character known as Toxin. His symbiote becomes so strong that Venom and Carnage decide to team up to try and kill him.
I'm playing
Eventually,
Lotus,
they're
but
defeated.
not
Toxin then
as
goes on
crazy.
to aid Spider-Man and the Avengers. I've seen
weird
some
black
people
and gold.
complain online that Patrick Mulligan has a New Yorker accent and they're in San Francisco. It makes sense though, because in the comics, Patrick Mulligan is part of the NYPD, and I guess in this movie he just transferred to San Francisco. I'm not sure if they definitively say that in the movie. Anne also refers to Mulligan as a little guy.
Boy, that little guy's a charmer, huh?
This is in reference to Stephen Graham's role in The Irishman, where he's also referred to as a little guy. Carnage breaks Shriek out super easily, and they escape together. Then there's a badass scene of them fighting off police. I really like this part. There's this funny lady named Mrs. Chen that Eddie interacts with throughout both movies. She calls Anne's boyfriend a pussy.
God, any other information you're pathologically lying about? Pussy! Excuse me?
It's a good scene. So the Venom symbiote goes to Mrs. Chen and it's hungry and dying. So Mrs. Chen bonds with the symbiote. Anne and her boyfriend end up in Mrs. Chen's store. And the dialogue between all of them in this scene is so weird. Anne starts talking to the symbiote that's on Mrs. Chen and she's like calling it hot. She's like flirting with it to try and get it to help them. And Venom likes it. He's like, hell yeah, call me hot.
No, I'm still standing right here.
What? Oh. I do think it's cool that throughout the movie, Venom refers to himself as the Lethal Protector, obviously because of the comic series Lethal Protector.
Lethal Protector out. If we save the day, can we call ourselves the Lethal Protector?
It's so 80s.
The Lethal Protector!
Lethal protection, my ass. You couldn't protect anything.
We found you. Miss New Booty.
Get it right. Get it right. Get it tight. Get it right. Get it right. Get it tight. Carnage and Shriek
Dana,
kidnap
you keep,
Mulligan and
glancing at
Anne.
me.
Venom and
Why you
Anne's
smiling?
boyfriend arrive to save the day. And the final fight is mostly pretty mid. And it pains me to say that. The beginning of the Carnage and Venom fight is so weird. Like, Venom enters the room as Venom. So then Cletus turns into Carnage. But then Venom gets scared and he's like, oh, I don't want to fight him. That's a red one. It's scary. It's gonna kill me. So Venom hides. And Eddie's like, shit, dude, I need you. Please come back. So then Carnage goes away and Cletus is standing there. And they kind of just like stand there awkwardly for a second. And then Venom's like, all right, well, fine, let's do this. So then they charge Carnage. And then Carnage comes out again. It's just a bunch of like, oh, I'm here, no, I'm not. I'm here, no, I'm not. Okay, wait, we're fighting now? Okay, we're fighting now. There are moments during this fight that I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. But it's interrupted by a ton of awkward moments between the characters. Cletus
Spike
and the
down
Carnage
A.
symbiote
Yeah,
don't
first
see eye
ball
to
from the
eye
other.
with Shriek, so they're
One
I
enemy
guess,
remaining.
in the movie, so it gives Venom the advantage. They do the whole like, oh, we are best friends and they're not best friends, so we have friendship on our side. And then Carnage says the line. He says, let there be carnage.
Let there be carnage.
Say the line, Bart. So then Venom yeets Shriek down the bell tower. So she screams and she separates everybody from their symbiote and they all fall down to the ground. Venom is able to catch Eddie and save him. Venom gets a hold of the Carnage symbiote and eats it. And then they kill Cletus. And then we get a sneak peek of what might become Toxin. Also, why would Carnage and Shriek bring these hostages to a place with a massive bell? Like, at this point, Cletus knows that sound affects him. The least you can do is get rid of the bell before Venom comes to try and kill you, right? Like, at the end of the movie, Venom mentions the symbiote hive. Then Eddie finds himself in the MCU for a second and he sees Spider-Man on TV. So then you're like, oh my god, Venom's gonna fight Spider-Man, this is gonna be so cool. I mean, I would like that. I hope it happens. We'll see. So yeah, if I were making these movies and I had no restrictions, I would start the movie off with the basic Venom origin, with him hating Spider-Man, etc. So then he goes out to fight Spider-Man, they fight for a little while, and then they kind of come to a stalemate. But then Venom gets captured by Drake. So then Drake makes the 5 Life Foundation symbiote children. When Spider-Man learns about this, he feels like he has no choice but to save Venom. So he saves Venom, so they have to work together to defeat the symbiote, and they do so. They still don't like each other by the end, but they kind of respect each other, you know? They would defeat Drake and the movie would end. And then the second movie would be about them both fighting Carnage. Obviously the focus in both of these movies would be on Venom, but Spider-Man would be in them. That's just how I would do it, and I would make the second movie a lot less goofy. I would keep some of the goofs, you know? I like goofy Venom, but I like there to be an equal mixture of sinister Venom and goofy Venom, because that's what he is. If you guys could recreate these movies, how would you do it? Let me know in the comments. And what do you want to see from the character Venom in movies in the future? Also, something I found kind of interesting, the older versions of Venom would speak together as one whenever the symbiote was in control. In the newer versions, more often than not, the symbiote and Eddie would have a conversation with each other. I do like the direction that they went as far as how they spoke to each other in the movies. Having them bicker with one another is good for comedy, and then when they do speak together as one, it's more special, and it's like, oh my god, they're really gonna get you now. We are Venom.
Together we are the Lethal Protector!
Hello, it's me, Venom. Time to look at some Venom memes that you guys might have sent me over on Twitter at Elvis the Alien TV. Follow me if you don't follow me. I posted this tweet, working on my Venom video. Reply with Venom memes and I might include them. I have to take off my long fingers, sorry. So Lazy Fox posted this. What the hell are you? Hey, Vsauce, Michael here. Oh my god, yeah. Woody Harrelson's face on the poster is so funny. Burnt Toast sent me. I've only had Eddie for a day and a half, but if anything happens to him, I would kill everyone on this planet and then myself.
Off your feet!
Up top! It's not ready. Mosh pit!
Obviously, this is a reference to something else that I haven't seen. And when you have an ugly face but a great smile.
Go get
Eddie
it, buddy!
Brock rolls worst joint ever. MCU. Apparently This is from a comic. You want me? Then take me. I'm yours. What's going on here? We feel like this fight is played by turns. You wanted to be part of
Spike
the
down A. Last player
I'm going
standing.
to pound you so hard. Oh my god, it's from... This person told me that I have to film the entire video while sitting in a restaurant aquarium and eating a lollipop. Damn it.
Open up the sky!
Chicken, maybe next time. Here's Anne as Venom, I guess. Want to make out? I promise I won't bite much. Thank
Last
you, Russ.
round
I
in the
appreciate
half.
that. Just a pig sent me this.
May I have some tots?
So stupid. Oh my god. Dread Knight 8 sent me this. That's Venom under. The penis man sent me this. This kid just covered in black shit. That's Venom underneath. What happened to him? What's this backstory? Jesse, a gamer, sent me this. Me saying crap at home versus me saying shit at school. Okay, so guys, what is the better movie? Venom or Evangelion? I mean, here's a breakdown. Venom, an hour and 53 minutes of pure awesomeness. Evangelion. The movie makes no sense unless you read several Reddit posts from people who should probably go outside. Venom, a simple, we gotta save the world plot with other stuff happening. Doesn't require Reddit posts for it to make sense. Evangelion has awkward hospital scene that takes you out of the movie. Venom doesn't exist to be philosophical. It exists to be badass. Evangelion solely exists to be some philosophical experience. Same goes for Evangelion as a whole. Venom. End credits were literally made by Eminem. Evangelion. You'll probably forget this movie even existed a year after watching. The soundtrack is forgettable. Venom. We are Venom. I mean, it's hard to argue. Too Fast, Too Carson sent me this. Venom over Moon Knight. And then Moon Knight says, why am I hearing Eminem all of a sudden? God Green Tyrene sent me this. A cat with the cheese symbol. What if Venom had eyes? It looks so much worse. You know what the best Wu-Tang Clan album is, Daddy?
Switching sides.
Liquid Swords. PK Kenzie sent me this. Hot girls be like, he's my comfort character. And it's literally whatever this thing is. Crazy Gamer Inc. sent me this. Zaya! He's my father! Linkendo19 sent me this. That is badass. I'm going to end this meme section by sharing with all of you the classic Nikocado avocado meme. And how clever he is with all of his ice puns. I like George Clooney's voice as Batman more than Val Kilmer's.
You get the ice, I'll get the ice, man.
I don't think Clooney is perfect for the role. I think he plays a better Bruce Wayne than he does Batman. But it's definitely better than the cardboard that we had in the last one. This movie overall has a very cartoonish and goofy vibe to it, but then there's a super terrifying scene of this skinny guy being forced to transform into Bane against his will. I remember this scene haunting me as a kid. It's really disturbing. Dr. Jason Woodrue is played by John Glover, and he is perfect. He hands up the mad scientist 1,000%.
I'm discreet.
And I love this one interaction between him and Pamela Isley, or Poison Ivy. She's played by Uma Thurman. There's a scene when Pamela Isley threatens to expose Dr. Woodrue, and this is how he responds.
I can respect your opinion. Sadly, I'm not good at rejection. I'm afraid you'll have to die.
Bruh, did Elliot Rodger write this screenplay? Michael Gough reprises his role as Alfred in this movie, and I think he's my favorite part about this movie. I adore Alfred in this movie. He's just the quintessential Alfred, and the flashbacks that Bruce has in the Wayne Mansion with Alfred are a nice touch. The computer sound effects in this movie are so weird. I guess the sound effects guy from the last movie returned for this movie, because what the hell? When they open a new window or zoom in on something, the sound effects are so odd. In '97, I guess they really thought computers in the future would be accompanied by weird noises with every action you took.
Last player standing.
When we meet Poison Ivy for the first time, she emerges from the ground with dyed long red hair and not a speck of dirt on her. It's very weird. And the strange face John Glover makes after Ivy kisses him is priceless. I guess they made him suck on a green Jolly Rancher before filming. Like, what the hell? Mr. Freeze is then seen orchestrating a sing-along with his hockey team. What the hell is this movie? He's wearing a polar bear robe and smoking a cigar, which is kind of weird for someone who needs to be a certain temperature to survive. I would love to see a darker and grittier version of Mr. Freeze, since I feel like his depressing story would fit perfectly in a movie like that. There are a couple scenes in this movie that I really like. There's a scene when Mr. Freeze is watching a recording of his wife, and then he's interrupted by one of his goons. And this is like the leader of his gang, but he instantly freezes him, displaying his ruthlessness and his undying love for his wife.
Yes, I'm a simp.
I really dig the colors in this movie. The aesthetic is amazing. Every scene is incredibly vibrant. It just fits the comic book vibe very well. Oh my god, the Batman credit card scene absolutely floored me. I completely forgot this scene existed until I watched the movie. So basically, Poison Ivy makes this grand entrance during the auction scene. I guess these rich guys are bidding on women and jewelry. Very normal.
Some lucky boys about to hit the honeypot. I'll include an evening of my company for the winner. I'll bring everything you see here, plus everything. So much further.
Defenders
Ivy
win.
uses her pheromones on Batman and Robin. It makes them horny, so they start bidding on her. Batman then whips out his Bat credit card.
7 million.
Oh my god. It's accompanied by a cha-ching cash register sound effect. It's so good. This card is good through forever, I guess. He says that he never leaves the cave without it. Uma Thurman's acting as Ivy versus Pamela Isley was pretty good, I thought. When she plays Ivy, she's much more confident and bold, and I thought that was a nice touch.
Make yourself right at home.
So Mr. Freeze comes out of nowhere and crashes the party.
All right, everyone. Chill.
And he steals the diamonds
Match
because he
found.
needs diamonds to power his suit that keeps him cold, I guess. The way he uses a vine to jump across the entire room is so good. It just sent me, dude. There is one poignant scene between Bruce and Alfred. Bruce gets in a disagreement with Dick Grayson because Bruce doesn't trust anyone's judgment but his own. Alfred helps Bruce explore why that might be.
Alfred, am I pig-headed?
Why, yes, actually. You have done everything in your power to control the fate. But what is Batman?
Whatever they
An
write,
attempt
I
to
will find
control
them.
death itself.
But I can't, can I?
None of us can.
It's scenes like this that I think a lot of people overlook when they think about this movie. Because the flashier, cornier, stupid scenes, they're just much more memorable. So it kind of makes sense. Alicia Silverstone is in this movie and she plays Batgirl, or Barbara Wilson. Most of the scenes with Batgirl were cut because Alicia Silverstone had gained a few pounds during production and the wardrobe team had to refit her costume. Apparently when the press discovered the news, they slammed Silverstone's weight gain and mocked the actress for being too fat to fit into her costume. Schumacher publicly defended Silverstone during interviews and press meetings. Pretty fucked up.
That's not awfully PC.
Remember how weird Dick Grayson was in the last movie? Well, Barbara Wilson is in this movie, and she's here to echo those actions. She borrows Dick Grayson's bikes without telling him, because she likes to compete in underground street races. Wow. Batman eventually catches Mr. Freeze, they bring him to jail, and they transport him in a fridge. There's a scene with the glowing cyber goth gang. They're in the movie for like 30 seconds, but they never left my memory. I think it's because of their creepy glowing contacts. Ivy and Bane get rid of these guys in like 2 seconds, and then Ivy redecorates the place by growing plants within it. Then we get this one moaning flower as it blooms. So weird. We get to watch one of Batgirl's bike races, and there's pyrotechnics going off constantly throughout the race. And most of the time, it's for seemingly no reason. It's just a bunch of pyrotechnics going off just to make the scene more intense, I guess. Just sparks flying everywhere. Also, before the race, there are random guys dressed up as the Droogs from A Clockwork Orange. I never noticed this until I rewatched it. So weird. Batgirl almost falls to her death during one of these bike races, and Robin barely saves her. And this is how she reacts.
So this is where you hang out. How long have you been racing?
Since my parents
Just a couple grunts. What the fuck? No big deal. This is not a normal reaction to have in this scenario. She comes across mildly inconvenienced that she could drop to her death at any moment. What? Barbara's reasoning for street racing doesn't make a whole lot of sense. She says she's doing it to get Alfred away from his life of servitude so he can relax.
Alfred is the sweetest, most noble man alive, and he's subjugated all his life
So she's racing to make money so Alfred can leave. And yeah, the master-servant thing is kind of weird, so I get that she would want to help him, but Alfred also loves the family. This is where he wants to be, but she refuses to accept that. And that's despite the fact that he's the butler to a billionaire. Like, this guy is wealthy. Alfred has money.
Spike planted.
If he wanted to leave, he easily could. Whatever, dude. I love how Poison Ivy's superpower is just horny breath. She just blows at people and it makes them horny. It's
Phrasing!
it's very interesting. And then she kills people by making out with them. Keanu Reeves' worst nightmare. There's this really weird scene of Bane transporting Freeze's suit to him in a shopping cart and rushes through the prison. When Bane arrives with it, Freeze says this.
A laundry service that delivers.
Wow. God damn it. I think this movie would be a lot better if the writing wasn't so bad.
Not good.
Poison Ivy and Freeze share an interaction about his suit size. Yeah, listen to this.
What are you, about a 50 big and tall?
No, always go a size smaller. Makes me look slimmer.
And then they escape through a hole that's created magically by Mr. Freeze bursting some pipes. They jump to safety because there's water down below. And water always saves you. It doesn't matter how high up you are. Water will always save you. Look at how high up they are. Thank God there's water there because then they'll just jump to safety. Right, kids? That's how it works. They'll be fine. So Alfred is dying in this movie, and there's a pretty interesting subplot that tackles Alfred's role in the family. There's a scene when Bruce asks him if he's ever regretted his life working for them, and this is how he answers.
Looking after heroes, my only regret is...
There are some moments of tenderness in this movie between these famous characters that I really like. Later, at Alfred's deathbed, Bruce expresses how his entire life has been trying to beat death, and how sometimes getting saved feels pointless, because he can't save the one person that he cares for the most in the world. Of course, by the end of the movie, he ends up saving him anyway. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but, you know. Earlier in the movie, they showed Freeze sharing a room with his wife, who's floating in a respiration tank in a secret room behind some frozen food. Later, Batman instantly finds the button to the secret room, like he knew it was there all along. Doesn't make much sense. He just opens it like, oh yeah, this is obviously here.
Here we go.
Also, before entering the room, they refer to Ivy's legs and boobs as stems and buds.
Big stems, though.
Buds too.
Yeah, those are nice.
What? Later, when Batman and Robin are fighting Bane and Ivy, Ivy says this.
That's why every Poison Ivy action figure comes complete with him.
Ivy and Bane sell action figures? Since when did they become celebrities with marketable toys?
Don't turn me into marketable plushies.
Or was she just making a weird joke? I'm not sure. I know how I said Ivy's superpower was horny breath, but her real superpower is that she's cunning and manipulative. She pits Robin against Batman. But Batman is smart enough to see her plan for what it is. Robin, on the other hand, has small brain. He's corrupted by the horny. Ivy attempts to kill Freeze's wife and frames Batman and the corrupt society that birthed it.
Last round before the switch.
She does this to win Freeze over, but also take away his distraction that was his wife, and to build him up with rage to kill Batman and to do her bidding. Mr. Freeze's plan is to freeze the entire planet and kill all of humankind, and Ivy wants Mother Nature to take over.
Adam and evil. Oh, brother.
So I guess they're gonna freeze the planet and then wait for all of the ice to go away so she can have her plants take over everything. It seems to me like Mr. Freeze's plan is a little bit counterproductive to Poison Ivy's. She really wants her weird mutation plants with tongues and teeth that are very realistic looking, by the way, to take over the world. Yeah, they look like something you'd buy at a Halloween store. Again, Robin is a pain in the ass the
Spike
entire
down
movie, and he
A.
isn't likable at all. Batgirl's role in this movie could have been better. She's hardly in it. I know that most of her scenes were cut because of her weight
One
gain,
enemy
which is
remaining.
kind of silly to me, like whatever, just make a new suit that's a little larger. It probably fucked with continuity, that's the main reason. I will never forget this scene of Mr.
Switching
Freeze
sides.
blasting these two innocent workers near the end of the movie. Who is this nutball, the guy says, and then they're both frozen stiff. I don't know why, but this scene always terrified me as a kid. And obviously later when Mr. Freeze freezes the entire city, I found it really scary. Like, what do you do when you're a big icicle? Not much. I'm not David Blaine, okay?
Cheese it! Cheese it!
Mr. Freeze has Bane place bombs throughout the entire satellite tower, and they're basically just a bunch of glowing icicles. Like, what the hell? Where's the bomb in these things? The Ivy confrontation at the end is pretty neat, as far as visuals go anyway. She's in the center of this massive flower. Robin knows that she has death kisses, but he really wants to make out with her. So before going to see her, he put on a lip condom. A lip condom, dude! So she didn't give him death herpes. After they kiss, like a moron, he removes them to demonstrate that their shared kiss didn't kill him, instead of just forcing another kiss on him, which would have killed him. She pushes him into some water. Batman gets wrapped up in her vines. Batgirl comes out of nowhere. She crashes through the skylight, and then she says this very clever line.
You're about to become compost.
Like, come on. How does she even know who Ivy is? Oh yeah, they sell action figures. They're celebrities. How could I forget? And then Batgirl delivers this very long-winded, awkward line.
Using feminine wiles to get what you want. Trading on your look. Read a book, sister. That passive-aggressive number went out long ago. Chicks like you give women a bad name.
Nobody talks like this. There's
One
a shot
enemy
of
remaining.
Robin emerging from the water, but they didn't want him to emerge from the water right here, so they just put the same shot in reverse to make him go back down, and it looks awful.
Bomb grenade out. Win. Show me where to go.
During the Batgirl versus Ivy fight, she takes out the world's least deadly looking knife. What the hell is this thing? Did she buy it at the Dollar Tree? And she acts like she just did something intimidating. Like, come on girl, you'd be better off with a butter knife. She's then kicked into the flower that she was once sitting in, but now it wants to eat her? Why? It was literally closed on her earlier, but it wasn't eating her then. Why is it eating her now all of a sudden? Then there's this hilarious line between Batman and Batgirl.
And you are?
I guess he doesn't recognize her? Dude, come on now. You know who this is. There's only one person on Earth this could be. And then he makes a weird comment about the name Batgirl not being PC enough.
Spike down.
Well, I mean, we
B.
got Batwoman. That show wasn't a complete dumpster fire or anything. Let me know if you guys want me to do that in the comments. So yeah, in this satellite tower, Mr. Freeze sets up a massive freeze ray. And he says the infamous line. This part is particularly fucked up. This is another scene that really scared me as a kid. I think it's incredibly memorable, and I love it. We literally watch as he freezes the city. Entire buildings and streets filled with people reduced to blocks of ice. I remember finding this prospect super terrifying as a kid. Batman has these little Batman symbol-shaped heaters that he defeats Mr. Freeze with. And then they unfreeze the city by redirecting the sunlight from the opposite side of the world with the telescope and melts the ice over Gotham. It doesn't make any sense.
I think not.
When the heroes are trying to unfreeze Gotham and can't wait the 5 hours until dawn, Robin suggests that they use the satellites to reflect the sunlight.
If we could relay the sunlight.
From the other
You
side
want
of
to
the
play?
This
Let's
in and of
play.
itself wouldn't accomplish anything. The equator is a measure of latitude, while time of day, or night, is determined by longitude. In this movie, the characters' grappling guns are insane. They can seemingly cover any distance and hold any amount of weight. It's hilarious. And the characters use them constantly to get out of trouble. There's this one
enemy
part
remaining.
when Batman saves 2 workers from falling, but then leaves them stranded on a frozen cliff. They thank him as he zips away. Like, what if he doesn't come back for you? Of course he does. When Batman free falls on the telescope along with the 2 scientists, they dive for approximately 30 seconds, which means that the observatory is located at about 4 kilometers above the ground, and that Batman wears a 4 kilometer long grappling hook. There's this cute Mr. Freeze redemption arc at the end when Batman reveals to him that his wife is still alive and Ivy was the one that tried to kill her. And remember how Alfred was dying? Well, hilariously and conveniently, Mr. Freeze has 2 vials on him and they help save Alfred from his cancer. I mean, it's a cute ending, but it's so dumb.
After his wife contracted a rare disease, Gregor syndrome, he hoped to freeze her in a cryogenic sleep to find a cure. Now,
Scanning ahead.
Found them.
That's what Freeze's wife had.
yes, Alfred's condition is less severe. Freeze's research said. Help me save him.
You will not
Show me
kill my
Gregor
allies.
syndrome
Destroy.
stage 1. And maybe you can also.
Enemy down. My ult is ready.
Do please. And call me in the morning.
In later interviews, director Joel Schumacher blamed studio pressure to make the film more toyetic, basically just a showcase for marketable toys and games.
Desire at the studio to keep it more family friendly, more kid friendly, and a word I had never heard before, more toyetic.
We involved
Down.
the
My
toy
ultimate is
company.
ready.
We let them
Initiated.
look and be involved in how the Batmobile was going to look, how Batman's gadgets were going to be, which they wanted this as key to them.
In a making-of documentary on the DVD, he apologized to disappointed fans.
If I disappointed them in any way, then I really want to apologize.
Didn't ask, don't care, plus your wife.
It kind of sucks all the backlash that these movies got because they're timeless. They're so stupid, but they're so entertaining. There's a lot to love about them. George Clooney has been known to refund people who saw this movie. When they wrapped filming, George Clooney quipped, "I think we just killed the series," and he was right. Joel Schumacher had several meetings with Warner Bros. Trying to convince them to let him make another Batman movie. He wanted to take the film back to its darker roots and make a Batman Year One movie. He wanted to cast Kurt Russell as Commissioner Gordon, but Warner Bros. Decided not to rehire Schumacher, and the next Batman film stayed in development limbo for years until Batman Begins. After filming was completed, Arnold Schwarzenegger had heart surgery. Studios were anxious about ensuring Schwarzenegger in an action movie, and he couldn't get work again until the movie End of Days. According to John Glover, who played Dr. Jason Woodrue, Joel Schumacher would sit on a crane with a megaphone and yell before each take, "Remember everyone, this is a cartoon." Apparently it was hard to act because that kind of set the tone for the film. Apparently after Val Kilmer refused to return for this film, David Duchovny was also considered for the role of Bruce Wayne. Duchovny was later considered for the same role in Batman Begins. I'm not sure how I feel about David Duchovny being Batman. I loved him in The X-Files and Californication, and maybe back then he would have been perfect for it. This movie was voted as the #1 in Empire Magazine's 50 worst movies ever in February of 2010. Damn! If not for the universally negative reaction to the film, 2 sequels were planned. Batman Unchained, a direct sequel, which would have George Clooney and Chris O'Donnell reprising their roles, although there were no plans for a Batwoman to return. Scarecrow and Harley Quinn would have been the main villains, with cameos from past villains in the series appearing as hallucinations due to Scarecrow's fear gas. The film was going to take Batman back to its darker roots. The other film was a Robin Nightwing spin-off, with O'Donnell reprising his role as Dick Grayson. It is speculated that if films beyond Batman Unchained were to be made, O'Donnell would be Nightwing rather than Robin. The idea remained in limbo until parts of the plot were reworked for the 2015 video game Batman Arkham Knight. When comparing work on Batman Forever to this film, Chris O'Donnell explained, "It just felt like everything got a little soft the second time." He continues, "On Batman Forever, I felt like I was making a movie. The second time, I felt like I was making a kid's toy commercial." He also complained of the Robin costume, saying it was more involved and uncomfortable than the one he wore in Batman Forever, with a glued-on mask which caused sweat to pool on his face. Screenwriter Akiva Goldsman was blamed for ruining the movie. Schumacher defended him, quoting,
Akiva Goldsman was blamed a lot for the sort of lightness and humor and fun and games of Batman and Robin. But that's not fair. I take full responsibility. I mean, Akiva did write the script, but I shot it. You know, if you love a movie, there are hundreds of people that made it lovable for you. If you don't like it, blame the director. That's what our name's there for.
I still partially blame Akiva Goldsman for how awful this movie is. The writing is seriously terrible. George Clooney hates the film. It's been rumored at various times that if you meet Clooney and tell him you saw the film, he will give you your money back. And he has outright stated that he apologizes for the movie whenever he gets the chance.
I always apologize for Batman.
However, Clooney has also said that he doesn't regret doing it at all, and in fact credits the film for making him a leading man in Hollywood, as he had previously been a TV actor. He still keeps a poster of the film in his home office as a warning to himself. John Glover, who played Dr. Woodrue, was also the voice of the Riddler in Batman the Animated Series, 1992.
They have to match wits with the Riddler.
You look great, especially for a dead woman.
Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you'd like me to review in the comments down below. I have a bunch of plans for reviews. I want to review all the Underworld movies, all the Matrix movies, maybe Lord of the Rings one day. Just a never-ending list of stuff I want to talk about. So don't fret. I will always have something in the works. Thank you so much to all my patrons out there. You guys are awesome and you make videos like this possible. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Bye. See ya!
As a warning, I'm vengeance.
Are specifically designed to prevent contamination to stormwater and are never designed to drain directly into the ocean, because this would result in raw untreated sewage contaminating the ocean.
Okay, sorry guys.
But whatever, it's just movie things, you know? Chris, Claire, and Alice escape on a boat, and it's very misty. They find their way to the Arcadia and board it because it's totally not a trap. This part is even funnier to me because these people go to the ship hoping to find some sort of random safe haven on a boat that isn't moving when they've seen no signs of life from this boat. And the last time Alice heard somebody over the radio, it was a woman crying for help. And when she got there to save her, it ended up being a trap. But for some reason, she hasn't learned her lesson. Clearly, this might be a trap too. But for some reason, it doesn't cross Alice's mind. She's so incredibly naive, it's weird. And for some reason, she's not skeptical, even after going to Alaska and finding out that nothing was there, aside from your friend who had a Zack Snyder's Justice League transcends not only what a superhero movie can be, but what a movie can be. What? I never thought a director can be so bold and so correct on every decision made, but Snyder was willing to go far and beyond into his brilliant mind and pull off a film that makes me proud to be part of the human race. When the 4 hours of this masterpiece ended, I teared knowing that was an experience I wouldn't have again. I'm glad it happened. Zack Snyder's Justice League was all around the greatest film I've ever seen. Best superhero movie without a doubt. Well, I don't know, I think that's debatable. I would rather watch an abortion over and over for 4 hours instead of this shit. What the f— I was somehow duped into watching this film twice. It's still awful. But at least Son of the Mask is no longer the worst film I've seen. Whoa, okay. The abortion thing was weird, but this is just taking it to another level. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Zack Snyder's Justice League is meh. Okay? The Son of the Mask is absolute torture. I would rather watch Zack Snyder's Justice League 10 times in a row before I ever even consider watching Son of the Mask again. But yeah, I guess this guy really hated this superhero movie. There's two groups of people, the people who hate this movie and the people who love it. There's a lot more people that love it. A good majority of people rated it an 8 out of 10 on Letterboxd. That's 29,845 people rated this movie an 8 out of 10. That is craziness. It has an 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb. It has a 71% critic score and 95% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. It has a reasonable 54 on Metacritic, but an 8.9 user score on Metacritic. Let me just come out and say, if you love this movie, good for you. I'm happy for you, that's awesome. But do I think it deserves all these great scores? No, not one bit. If the 2017 Justice League did not exist, these scores would not be as high. And that's just a fact, okay? It is. And a lot of people are hating on Joss Whedon. Like this guy, fuck you, Joss Whedon. This is how you make a movie. No. What? Zack Snyder had a lot more wiggle room to make the movie of his dreams. Joss Whedon, on the other hand, had to cut his movie down by a huge margin. And I'm not saying that if Joss Whedon had his way that the movie would have been a masterpiece. It probably still would have been a mess. But Zack Snyder's version is not that much better. It is better. Don't get me wrong. I think it's better than Joss Whedon's movie, but it's not a masterpiece. It's not even one of the best DC movies ever made. Pretty mediocre. And yes, viewer, you must agree with me.
Level 3.
That being said, I did not like the 2017 Justice League at all. Also, Snyder's Cut is separated into 6 sections. It's structured like a mini-series. A lot of people are saying that that's how you're supposed to watch it. You know, you're supposed to watch it in sections. But the movie isn't structured like that. There's no build-up or payoff between each section. It's just like randomly cut at certain points throughout the movie. It seems like this was just another tactic that Snyder was trying to use to try and manipulate people into thinking that this movie is more artistic than it really is. People will think it's deep, interesting, cool. You're not gonna like trick me into thinking it's not a bloated movie by separating it into parts. You know that, right? So the bar that Zack Snyder had to clear wasn't very high off the ground. I'm pretty sure like a mouse could have jumped over that bar. So Zack Snyder just leapt right over it, and people are praising him all over the place. Oh my God, this is the Justice League we always wanted. I'm gonna start by saying Zack Snyder's movie is much uglier than Joss Whedon's. It's grayer, it's boxier, and it's fatter. He took the original movie and squished it this way. He threw some dirt on it. And he made it run a 4-hour marathon. He was abusing this movie. It's 4 hours long. You guys thought The Irishman was long. Jesus. So the aspect ratio that he used is 1:3:3:1. And from what I've researched, Zack wanted to use this because it looks better on an IMAX screen. And you know, all those people around the world that are watching this movie on an IMAX screen during the pandemic. Nobody's going to the movies right now, Zach. This was a very strange decision. This is what he said verbatim. It's just got a different quality, and one that's unusual. No one's doing that. So it seems like Zack Snyder's trying to be the hipster kid in Hollywood. Man, if I had it my way, BVS and Man of Steel would both be in this 1:3:3:1 ratio. You know, in superhero movies when there's like a huge fight and there's a lot going on and you want to see a lot of stuff going on the sides, well, he just kind of went, squished it down. An aspect ratio like this worked a lot better in a movie like The Lighthouse, for example, because the movie's meant to give you this feeling of claustrophobia. And at most, there's 2 people on screen at a time. So it's not like he needs that extra room, you know? And it gave the movie this like old-fashioned, archaic feel to it, which really worked artistically. The Justice League, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's very random. Also, this movie's color correction is very strange. They removed like all of the vibrance. It's a superhero movie with like Superman, Flash, all these bright ass colors, reds, blues, very, very bright. You know? And this is a movie about the Justice League. The Justice League, like the most colorful band of superheroes ever. You got gold, blues, reds. You're just gonna wash it all out? It's like you threw all the characters in the dryer for like 1,000 years. And he pulled them all out. You have no color anymore. This movie is very strange because he removed some scenes that I thought were unnecessary and bad. But then he included other scenes that I thought were unnecessary and bad. You're just gonna like replace one column for another? In the original Justice League, there's this dumb scene in the beginning. There's like a phone recording of Superman. This was one of those scenes where you can tell pretty easily that they just really removed his mustache. So Snyder removed that. And he also removed the Batman scene in the beginning, where he like captures the parademon and it explodes. There's no montage of people mourning Superman's death. Instead, it starts with Superman dying, and his scream spreads throughout the world, and you can see everybody reacting to it, and everyone's feeling its effects. This was definitely a more engaging way to start the movie, in my opinion. So good job on that, Zach. So as far as scenes that he included that were kind of random, and I don't know why they were in there, there's a part where a Scandinavian girl's singing for no reason, really. We gotta keep the scene of the girl singing. I know this movie's like 4 hours long, and we probably should cut some stuff, but no. That's it, because it manipulates the audience into thinking that this movie is more artistic than it is.
Main engine burn.
He's pulling the strings on the viewers here. There's also a scene of Wonder Woman and Batman touching a computer mouse at the same time, and it doesn't lead to a romance or anything, it just happens. Oh, but you guys don't understand. It's leading to a romance in a sequel. Huh? Bet you guys can't wait for the sequel.
Wings up.
The Zack Snyder's Justice League 2. Huh? It's coming. Or not. I mean, probably not, but you can tell Zack Snyder really wanted this sequel. There's the whole, like, Batman parademon drawing that leads to nothing. You can rest assured that Zack Snyder changed the drawing. I honestly laughed out loud when they showed this on screen. Like, that's supposed to be a parademon? Come on, dude. If you look at the one in the Joss Whedon version, it kind of looks like a parademon, but you can see how someone might confuse it with Batman. With the new drawing, it's just like a crudely drawn bat. Like a 3-year-old drew a bat on a napkin. Oh my God. So yeah, thank God he changed that. That was one of the issues with the Joss Whedon version. Also, there's a lot of scenes of heroes saving people to introduce them. That's like the only reason they exist, to introduce the heroes. And I'm not saying this is always a bad thing, but it takes up a lot of time in this movie. If you're just gonna use these to introduce a character and they have nothing to do with the overarching plot, make them short. Most of them aren't short in this movie. Like, there's one where Aquaman saves this guy from a boat. It's fine, it lasts for like 2 seconds, and it's like, oh God, there's Aquaman, he's so cool, he saves people from boats. But then there's another one with Wonder Woman, and it lasts like 5 minutes. She saves these kids from terrorists. Then there's one with the Flash, where he saves a girl from a car crash. There's a scene of Cyborg putting money into this woman's bank account. I'm more lenient on the Flash and Cyborg because they haven't gotten to know the movies before, and people might not be familiar with their characters. But the Wonder Woman scene, that's by far the longest, makes no sense to me. People know who Wonder Woman is. If you're gonna introduce her with a scene like this, gotta make it shorter. You gotta make it short. It just starts to feel like a lot of filler, but at least Zack Snyder had the foresight to remove the Batman scene in the beginning of him, you know, capturing the parademon. You can't have that. Instead, the first scene of Batman is him walking through the mountains in Scandinavia to find Aquaman. And I'm not mad that he removed the Batman scene. Why did he keep the Wonder Woman scene? I think I know why. Because she does, like, nothing in the movie. The scene of her saving the kids from the terrorists in the beginning is, like, the most she does in the entire movie. It's pretty much the only scene that Wonder Woman gets that's like, hey, look, I'm cool, I'm Wonder Woman, you know? I think that's why they kept it in. Henry Cavill makes an angry chipmunk face in this movie, and it's funny. I thought I would mention that. I would also like to mention that there's a scene when Aquaman fails to hold back water. I'm just going to repeat that for everybody that didn't hear me. Aquaman fails to hold back water. Yes, there's a bunch of water gushing towards the heroes, and Aquaman comes out of nowhere and saves everybody, but it's too much water. He couldn't hold that much water. Like, that's a lot of pressure. You know? It's pathetic. He literally has Aqua in his name. Waterman can't hold back water. How is he supposed to fight this godlike guy if he can't hold back water? Zack removed the scene of the Flash laying face down in Wonder Woman's tits. Why would you do that? That was the best scene. I want to know. The fans want to know, Zack. So remember the really terrible "Do you bleed" exchange between Superman and Batman? Do you bleed? Yeah, Zack Snyder removed that. Thank Christ. And remember the fat bat thing? You know how Superman threw him to the side and he, like, struggled to get up on his feet? He removed that too. Oh my God, thank you. Instead, in Zack Snyder's version, Superman blasts Batman with his eyeball lasers, and Batman absorbs the blast with his gauntlets, only to have Lois Lane appear at the last second. I do think with a movie like this, especially after all the filming has been done, it's kind of hard to give every character their time to shine. Most of the failures here, I think, were done before they even started filming. Oh yeah, there's a scene where Wonder Woman unequips her sword like it's a video game. She, like, puts it on her back and it vanishes. I thought that was funny.
Healing. Wings up. Eye sharp.
There's so many scenes where a hero is about to die but is saved at the last second. Like, way too many scenes. Oh my God, what's gonna happen? Oh, they're saved. Oh my God, what? Oh, they're saved. Oh no, they're gonna die. No, they're not. I know already. So see, here they come. Yep, there they are. He knows there's a lot of consequences. So if I just add in more comic book characters, they'll like my movie more. Ingenious manipulation. I have you by my strings. So yeah, that's what he did. He just added a bunch more conflict characters. Obviously, that's not to say that adding more characters is necessarily a bad thing, as long as these additions service the plot in some way. Pretty much all of these additions in this movie were added for practically no reason. Martian Manhunter, random Green Lantern, Deathstroke, Lex Luthor, the fucking Joker. Man, he was just sprinkling all of these characters in, wasn't he? Because he wants that sequel. Dude, you know he wants that sequel so bad. He was planning on it. Do you think Zack Snyder prays at the edge of his bed every night for a sequel to this movie? Probably. Do you think he constantly spams Warner Bros. With emails begging for a sequel? Hey guys, it's me, Zack again. They love my movie. Did you see? Did you see what they're rating it on Rotten Tomatoes? Huh? I'm pretty sure they want a sequel. I'm just putting it out there. So the ending with the Flash, I have to admit, is better, but the character that improved the most is by far Cyborg, because he actually tried to flesh out his character in this movie. Can you believe it? Joss Whedon just like peppered in a few lines of dialogue about his backstory and thought, hey, that's fine, that's good. Now, Snyder did replace some notoriously bad takes, like Wonder Woman's Kal-El, no! If you watch them both, it's slightly different in Zack Snyder's version.
Kal-El, no! Kal-El, no!
But what I want to know is why he didn't just remove that part altogether. It's still bad. He also removed all of Batman's terrible jokes. You know, when he talks to Aquaman and he's like, hey, you're the guy that talks to fish. Yeah, all of those are gone, thank God. In the original Justice League, there's a scene when the Flash is like whining to Batman because he doesn't know what to do, where they're right outside the room Steppenwolf is in and he has hostages. Instead, the superheroes just immediately go in and fight them, which I think is a good change. I'm not a fan of Steppenwolf's design in either movie, though in Snyder's, I do like how his armor is like a part of his body. You can see him break off arrows in one scene. In another scene, he retracts his armor when in the presence of Darkseid as a notion of respect. It rattles when we're introduced to him, and there's some cool sound effects to accompany it. In the theatrical version, he's just a weird gray dude with steel plating on and a dumb horned helmet. And the funny part is, the theatrical version is more faithful to the comic book version of Steppenwolf. He's just this dude with armor, except in the comics he has red, glowing eyes. He's very evil looking. I guess I just don't like the look of Steppenwolf in general, so I'm not sure I would have liked him in any sort of way they introduced him. I guess if I had to choose one, Snyder's is okay. He just looks like a death metal rhino. I also hate how in Joss Whedon's film, when they introduce Steppenwolf, they have one of the Amazons say, Steppenwolf, when she sees him, which is the laziest way you could ever introduce a villain, is by having one of the characters say the villain's name in like a daunting way. It's you, Steppenwolf. Oh my God, it couldn't be you, Donut Boy. Anybody but you, Donut Boy. In Snyder's cut, when Steppenwolf comes down from his ship, he says,
I will bathe in your fear.
To the Amazon. And then there's a cool moment when the Queen yells. It might have just like got my dumb comic book ape brain going, but I still think it added more height to the scene. In Snyder's cut, the Amazons almost stop Steppenwolf. There's a scene where they almost get him down, but then he like breaks the ropes. I was like, oh, cool, like these Amazons aren't completely useless. In the theatrical version, they don't stand a chance. I think Snyder did a better job introducing Steppenwolf. The build up to the scene is better. In the theatrical version, Steppenwolf just lands and immediately starts talking to the mother box. He just completely ignores all the Amazons. And he calls it his mother. He does this multiple times throughout the movie. It's weird. And then he like summons the parademons down and they fight. In Snyder's version, the parademons fly down first, and it like builds up the tension in the scene. And then Steppenwolf comes down. When Steppenwolf finally gets his hands on the mother box, they say different things in both films. In Joss Whedon's version, he says, you will love me, to the Amazon Queen. Very cringe. Did not like. But in Snyder's cut, he says, which is almost just as cringe, but not quite. Steppenwolf does kick more ass in this movie. It makes him feel like more of an ongoing threat, and I like that. There's more scenes of him going around gathering the mother boxes and kicking the shit out of people. They even gave him a little pinch of backstory. I did like how they fleshed out Cyborg in this movie. They showed his relationship with his parents, which makes him more compelling. They showed how his dad was never there for him during pivotal moments of his life growing up. The parent that was there for him ended up dying in a car accident. His father saved him from dying in this car accident by using one of the mother boxes on him. So ever since then, he blames his dad for turning him into a freak. They show his abilities through his mind's eye, and they're kind of cheesy, but whatever. It did the job, I guess. There's less bickering between the heroes, and they're more of a cohesive unit in this movie. I thought that was refreshing. At the end, there's this cool, like, synergy attack between Cyborg and Aquaman. I kind of like that. It reminded me of the old X-Men games I used to play that had, like, synergy attacks between the X-Men. So yeah, that kind of scratched my nerd itch. So thanks for that, Zach. When Wonder Woman saves these hostages, she proves that she's way too fast. This guy uses an assault rifle, puts it on auto, and just starts spraying at these kids. Wonder Woman absorbs every single shot with her gauntlets. At these speeds, she's rivaling the Flash, okay? That's absurd. Also, remember in Wonder Woman 1984 when they were really trying to hammer home that Wonder Woman doesn't like killing people? She loves people. She will do anything to avoid someone dying. Except in that same movie, she like pretty much kills me. But, you know, whatever. In this movie, she just straight up fucked up. Like, turns him into dust. I like how this scene isn't even used as a way for two heroes to meet or anything. It's just like a random scene for her to save people for no reason. Funny enough, in Joss Whedon's version, they cut away from this scene as soon as she hits her gauntlets together. In Snyder's cut, he wants to show us that she toasted this guy. She fucked him up. He's super dead. Also, he kept in the scene where Wonder Woman lassos a guard and forces him to tell her why they're there, which is one, wasting precious time. They could kill the hostages at any second, and two, leads to literally nothing. She asks him who he is, and instead of giving her his name, he tells her they're a group of reactionary terrorists. This is hilarious because nobody would refer to themselves as a terrorist, since I think most people believe they're doing the right thing. Even if they're doing something bad, they think that it'll lead to something good. You know what I mean? But these guys have a lot in common with Darkseid. They're just evil because they're evil. He says they want to destroy the modern world and bring humanity back to the Dark Ages. But why? No reason? Oh yeah, he was about to explain that Wonder Woman cut him off right before he could. That's what I mean.
Boring. You are the Apex champion.
He then tells her that they will destroy 4 city blocks. Yeah, that will totally be enough to destroy the modern world and bring everybody back to the Dark Ages. What? These terrorists are not very smart. Remember when the Flash asks Batman what his superpower is? And Batman says, I'm rich. That's even funnier in Snyder's cut, because when they're telling Cyborg's backstory, they explain that he has a power to control the entire monetary system. Like the entire world's economy, he can just manipulate it at a whim. He literally has all of the money in the world at his disposal. Kind of makes Batman's superpower a little redundant, don't you think? I mean, sure, Batman earned his money. He didn't steal it. So he also has status and power and, you know, leverage on people. So maybe that's also an advantage. I think Batman's real superpower is, of course, his gadgets and his planes and cars and shit, which he's in for most of this movie because he doesn't compare at all to any of these superheroes. When you put him next to Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash, Superman, he just seems pathetic, doesn't he? Batman kind of reminds me of like Boomerang from the Suicide Squad, you know, when they have people like Diablo and Killer Croc. Yeah, I'm just a guy that can throw a boomerang really well. They show this flashback scene when Darkseid failed to use the anti-life equation. It scratched that popcorn nerdy itch that just loves to see people with powers fight each other. I think it's funny that Darkseid decided to use the mother boxes. When he had like 3 armies chilling there waiting for him, he could have waited a little bit, you know? Or maybe just like shot at them from space or something. But no, he goes down there and he's like, we're fine. He gets fucked up. So they fly him away. So then a bunch of time passes and he hires Steppenwolf to find the mother boxes again because he lost them on Earth and they were divided amongst all the races of Middle Earth. Sorry, I meant the Amazons and the people in the water. Oh my god. So they divide the rings of power. I meant the Infinity Stones. God, I meant the Mother Boxes. So Darkseid hires Steppenwolf to find the Mother Box, and once he finds the Mother Boxes, to find the anti-life equation, because he has no idea where it is. Oh wait, yes he does. He was there, on Earth. Are you telling me that he's only been defeated once, and he doesn't remember the one planet that he was defeated on? What? This is what Zack Snyder had to say when people started complaining about this plot hole. He almost died when he returned to Apocalypse. He was in a fight for power, and much time passed before he was in a position of power again. And by then, all who had been with him had been slayed. Okay, but he's not dead, and he was there too, so I guess he forgot still? Like, you didn't explain how he forgot. Why? Because a lot of time passed? That's stupid.
Wings up. New kill leader.
The Flash is supposed to be like supposed to be 21 in these movies, and he's just annoying as hell in both of them, and nothing he says is remotely funny. But still, Snyder decided to remove some of his lines and change other ones, and you know, they're all just as bad. Nothing was improved. Snyder removed the scene when the Flash is waiting in line and there's an impatient dickhead behind him, so the Flash quickly draws like glasses and a mustache on this guy. So the guy walks up to the counter, and the guy behind the counter is like, hey, you have stuff on your face. Zack removed that scene because that wasn't funny. But you know the scene he did keep in? When the Flash is in the truck and he says, aye, aye, to the guard? Yeah, that was hilarious. Thank God he kept that in.
Wings out.
Most of Batman's fighting scenes are just CGI, and they all look terrible. Cyborg CGI looks just as bad as it did in the 2017 version. Maybe it looks worse because they have dirt on the screen now. The music that Zack Snyder decided to use in some scenes is a little questionable. So there's a scene when the Flash saves this girl from a car accident. There's like this sad, sappy song playing in the background. You know, you're supposed to be taking this moment seriously because, oh my God, the Flash moves too fast to get any sort of meaningful connection with anybody. And it's only in these fleeting moments that he can really connect with people. But then they ruin the scene by making him pick up a hot dog and put it in his pocket. I guess he's saving it for later. It like completely threw off the tone of the scene. Yeah, there's a lot of scenes in this movie. I guess Zack Snyder thinks equals like meaningful and profound. No, it doesn't. It's kind of annoying when you do it over and over. If you're gonna do it very sparingly, it makes sense to use it for the Flash. But with Aquaman, when he's walking down the pier with waves crashing on him, and he has no shirt on, and he's drinking, it's like, what is this? Is he modeling right now? It looks like he's modeling. I'm not sure what kind of deodorant or 5 gum you're trying to sell me right now, but I'm not interested. Also, whenever Wonder Woman makes an appearance, they always play the same annoying chanting music. If you're gonna do this, do it once, you know? Once is more than enough. But no, every single time she does anything. And it's only her. Why? It pulls you out of the scene. You can't help but just feel like the music is laughing at you.
Bangalore Revenant.
There's this very formulaic relationship between Steppenwolf, Desaad, and Darkseid. You know, there's the minor baddie that leads to the bigger baddie that eventually leads to the biggest baddie. You could basically replace Steppenwolf with Vader or Kylo, Desaad with Snoke, and Darkseid is Palpatine, Steppenwolf as the Ringwraiths or the Witch King of Angmar, Desaad as Saruman, and Darkseid as Sauron. You see what I'm getting at here? And not only that, Darkseid is like the exact same as Thanos. Almost. They're like 10% different, you know? Like, Darkseid is collecting these things across the universe in order to control everybody. Thanos is collecting these things across the universe in order to kill half of everybody. But at least in the Avengers, they give Thanos some motive to do these things. Darkseid has no motive. He's just an evil guy. Just a big bad evil guy that comes out of nowhere to do evil things because he's evil. Okay, Steppenwolf is a much better villain than Darkseid. We know that he's failed multiple times in the past, and he's trying to prove himself to Darkseid.
Prepare for his arrival. My redemption is nigh.
So at least we kind of know why he's doing this. We don't know anything about Darkseid. It's really bad, which might have been why Joss Whedon decided to completely take him out of the movie. I think including Darkseid improves Steppenwolf's character, but in doing that, you're including a character that has 0 depth. So I'm not sure which one I like more, but at least Darkseid is setting up a sequel. They haven't defeated Darkseid yet. You know? By the end, they defeat Steppenwolf, but not Darkseid. Get ready, everybody, for Zack Snyder's Justice League 2. Let's go. By the way, I'm not saying, like, the whole bad guy leads to another bad guy leads to the ultimate bad guy is, like, a bad thing. It's fine if stories do this. I just thought it was funny. So yeah, in these movies, Superman is dead, and the heroes are trying to find a way to revive him. And eventually, they use one of the mother boxes to revive him. But they have a choice, right? They can either use the mother box and then reveal its position to Steppenwolf, or they can take the mother box and not revive Superman. The mother box from Steppenwolf would have been greatly improved if the heroes decided not to revive Superman and instead tried to hide the mother box. So now the heroes are in a very awful position, right? Surely the supervillain could have had the foresight to take advantage of his power, unless they just didn't know about Superman. They could have found out about him, though. I don't know. I just feel like a little bit of restructuring would have made this movie a lot better. But instead, the heroes wake up Superman, and they completely botch it. In both versions of this movie, the heroes fail to convince Superman that they are on his side. It's embarrassing. Like, they just kind of sit there and say nothing. And not only that, it looks like they're surrounding him. Get down on your knees or something, guys. Like, Jesus Christ. And then there's this hilarious moment when Cyborg's, like, auto-defense system turns on, which he can't control for some reason, and he shoots Superman. I thought this was so stupid.
What are you doing? It's my auto-defense system. It senses danger.
So whenever his suit senses a threat, it just automatically shoots at it. That is absurd. That is like the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Are you kidding me? What if I was this guy's next door neighbor and my dog... Would he just like eviscerate my dog? What if I was walking down the street and I stepped on his car by accident? What is going on? I'm so confused. Who the fuck is this guy on the street? Would he just like throw you through a building? There's less Lois Lane in Snyder's cut. I like this decision. She was a snore, but he made sure to include a scene where she opens a drawer. And what's inside? A pregnancy test. Guess what, everybody? Lois Lane is pregnant with Superman's baby. He even changed the ending to make it look like she's carrying a baby basket instead of a box. Even more setup for Justice League 2. Zack Snyder's Justice League 2. I'm sure he has a lot planned with Superman's baby. I can't wait to see. Or not. It probably won't happen. It seems to me that a lot of people across the internet like this movie, so maybe Warner Bros. Would be like, hey, go for it. Also, this pregnancy test is from a company named Force Majeure. I know I didn't say that right, okay? But it has the dictionary definition of an unforeseeable circumstance that prevents someone from fulfilling a contract, or irresistible compulsion or greater force. You guys can decipher whatever meaning you want from that. Zack Snyder wanted to remain faithful to the comics, so he changed Superman's suit from the classic suit to a black suit, because his black suit was used in the comics when he was resurrected, and the black suit makes it easier for him to absorb energy. There is this cool scene of him flying up and absorbing the sunlight. I don't know, I kind of like that. That was cool. And it's really important to Zack to remain faithful to the comics, because remember Steppenwolf, how, you know, the Steppenwolf in this movie looks way more similar to the Steppenwolf in the comics than the Steppenwolf in Shascam.
കളിക്കുമ്പോൾ വിറക്കെടുക്കട ഇത് ചെയ്യാൻ ഞാൻ പണ്ടേ ഒരു
is the end. Cyborg and Flash work together to separate the mother boxes. The Flash runs in a circle around the area to give Cyborg the energy he needs to separate them. But a blast ends up gripping the Flash, and so everyone dies. Wait, what? A blast from the turret ends up tripping the Flash. It's kind of funny to think about this part, because in the Flash's perspective, the lasers that are coming out of these guns would be moving so slow to the Flash. It's kind of hilarious thinking how he would get hit by one of them. You know, like he would see it coming very slowly, and then, I mean, he could dance around it, to be honest, but whatever. Okay, he was distracted for way too long for some reason and ended up tripping. So the energy was cut off and the world ended. But since the Flash moves so fast, he decides to run faster than he's ever ran before, risking his life, turn back time in order to give Cyborg the last remnant he needs to separate from other monsters. And he does that, and it's a pretty cool scene. I think he talked too much during this scene, you know? He has way too much dialogue for this scene. Maybe give him like 1 or 2 lines during this part.
Oh,
I think that's more than enough.
clean
Let people
player.
experience the scene. Stop interrupting it with dialogue. Every 2 seconds, the Flash is thinking something, blah, 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 blah. I thought this scene was kind of cool. That being said, the Flash's character arc is super weak.
Let's go, baby, let's go.
Hey, Dad, look, I got a real job, huh? A real job. And his dad's like, hey, hell yeah, son, you got a real job.
It's pushing the door. That's my boy right there. Told him nothing he knows.
Dad, you get thanks again.
I don't care. I kind of like the whole make your own future thing. You know, his dad said that to him earlier, and then he says that at the end. I guess in order to really appreciate Zack Snyder's ending, you have to experience the theatrical version. Because, oh my god, it is so bad. In Snyder's version, no longer does the Flash and Superman have this awkward break from the action during the climax, where they randomly save civilians. Instead, Superman is used to defeat Steppenwolf, while the Flash runs in a circle and builds up energy. And no longer is there a weird exchange between Batman and Superman, when Superman is like, and Batman is like, I don't not like you. I honestly forgot how egregiously bad the theatrical version was. In Snyder's cut, the way Aquaman is way cooler, and it's a better payoff since they lost just the ones before. Also, the sky isn't a dumb red color. Yeah, in Joss Whedon's version, he desperately wanted the sky to look like it was from the game Bloodborne. So yeah, Zack made the sky normal. So I guess the color correction team had 1 W. In this movie. Also, for whatever reason, Batman wears these really stupid shades at the end of the movie. Even when he's not in a vehicle, he just walks around with these dumb shades on. You look stupid. Take off those sunglasses, Batfleck. You look like a dumbass. I guess now I should probably talk about the epilogue. Dear Lord. Why didn't Zack just end the movie at the end? That was perfectly reasonable. No, because he needed to use the Joker to clickbait people into watching the movie. Because it's not just an end. You know what I mean? There's so many YouTube videos that will show you something crazy, right? And it won't even be in the video. Same thing with Snyder's Cut. He clickbaited everybody with the Joker because he knew that this scene with the Joker would circulate throughout the internet and it would get more eyeballs on his movie. So he had to include it. And oh my god, it's so cringe. It's so bad. Jared Leto fails to bring anything new to the role aside from pain. His first line is literally, "Au contraire, my love." That's not a joke. It's seriously called someone a fish stick.
Au contraire, my little fish stick.
The poor Joker. They do the whole, you need me, I complete you. You can't kill me, Batman, it's against your code. Heath Ledger did this a billion times better, but Jared Leto tries it. He says,
Besides, who's gonna give you a reach around?
what the fuck? It's so bad. He even tries to mimic the vocal inflection and growl that Ledger made up for the character. It's strange seeing so many people online giving this scene so much credit. I have to admit, he does look better than he did in Suicide Squad. He doesn't have dumb tattoos anymore. His teeth are black, so he's scarier looking. I did like his overall appearance, but his lines are awful. His delivery is just as bad, if not worse, than in Suicide Squad. I just feel like people love the character so much that they're willing to make exceptions when he's terrible. Would I like to see a sequel? No. Would I watch a sequel if he made one? Probably just out of curiosity. Yeah, I have to say, I am more willing to watch a sequel now than I was when I saw the 2017 version. This one is better, and I would give them a second chance. I'm a nice guy, what can I say? I would let them try and win me over again. When I saw the 2017 version, I was just happy it was over. But yeah, get someone else to write the screenplay. Maybe I would watch it. Never know. So yeah, guys, those are my thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League. Let me know what you thought of this movie in the comment section down below. I'm sorry this video is so late. Everybody else on the planet has already put out a video on this already. But there's a reason for that, okay? I recorded this video 3 times. 3 times! The first time, my external hard drive was full, so I recorded for like 2 hours, then I noticed that I only recorded for the first minute and I wanted to die. The second time I tried recording, the audio was all fucked up, so this was my 3rd attempt. So, thank you for all of your patience. I haven't had a great run, especially with all the issues I had with my science fiction video. That's it, guys. Let me know what you'd like me to review next in the comment section down below. Thank you to all my patrons that make videos possible. Make sure to check out my channel with Bionic Videos. On that channel, we do like classic commentary type stuff. We talk about other YouTube channels. We do tier lists, gaming. It's a fun channel, so go check it out if you haven't. The link to it will be in the description. Also, please make sure to check out alienclothing.com. We have a bunch of new clothes over there that I think you'll like, including this one. We got some tie-dye in the house. It's awesome. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
These eyes mine. We'll be well positioned there.
Immediately tell me this.
Today we're talking about the new Netflix Resident Evil show. Just in case you're watching this a year from now, the one that came out in 2022, because I'm sure that Resident Evil will be milked more and more and more. For some reason, people love to make random shows based on Resident Evil that have very little to do with Resident Evil. This show feels like what someone would imagine the world would be like if the Umbrella Corporation existed on a day-to-day, and how it would impact things from a high school who also happens to be the daughter of a powerful man that works for Umbrella named Albert Wesker, who's actually just a clone of Blade.
Escape not an option.
That description probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you if you haven't seen the show, but it will when you're done watching this video. I have to say this right off the bat, I would like this show a lot more if it was just another zombie show and had nothing to do with Resident Evil. Some might think that's not fair, but I think it's kind of cheap to slap on the Resident Evil title and use some names from the games and put some pretty cool marketing out there, like this liquor promotion. I think this is in New York City or something. Liquors are present for like 5 minutes in the entire runtime of the show. There's hardly anything in this entire show that makes you think of Resident Evil. That's not to say that everything about the show is terrible. In fact, I've seen tweets and reviews for the show that are very positive. A lot of people out there like this show. I can see why. There are things to like about it if you don't give a shit about Resident Evil. This show does a lot of time hopping. They'll show us younger versions of the protagonists and then fast forward to older versions of the protagonists after the apocalypse happens. This show is based around Albert Wesker's daughters. One of them has hair like Billie Eilish, dresses like Billie Eilish, with baggy clothes, etc. And when they introduce her, she's listening to Billie Eilish. And what's her name?
What?
Billie.
Revenant is kinda strong.
And then
Not
there's her
gonna
sister,
lie.
Jade Wesker. Immediately, there's some very strange dialogue in the show when the kids are introduced to their new living space in New Raccoon City. It's Raccoon City, but the new one. This woman that's showing them around is like, last year we were voted best place to live in the world. And then Jade says, by who? Lululemon whore? Guys who jerk off to CrossFit? Elon Musk? We're like 8 minutes into the show, and they've mentioned Elon Musk and Lululemon.
Recharging shields.
Funny.
Ideally,
Throughout this
I
show,
will
they
have.
mention a bunch of real-life people and corporations, and it's very weird. When you're playing a Resident Evil game, you don't stumble across Apple computers, you don't see billboards for Drake's new album. There's none of that, and thank God. But in this show, they really want to make it seem like this is in the real world, you know, which is so weird. And then Jade has another ingenious line.
I mostly just read Zootopia porn.
Zootopia porn? This is the first episode.
Help!
I wouldn't be surprised
No!
We get a scene with older Jade, and she's attacked by a very hungry caterpillar. She's then saved in the last second by random survivors. In this rendition, Albert Wesker is played by Lance Reddick. He's a really good actor, and I think he was a great choice.
Please fight together or something.
He plays multiple characters with varying personalities. I hope they paid him a lot. Yeah, this is not my favorite rendition of Wesker, but that has nothing to do with Lance Reddick's performance because I thought he was great. There's a girl at Billy and Jade's high school named Tammy.
Nice, beautiful.
So she approaches Billy, who's seated alone. It looks like Billy's about to make a friend because it appears like they're both outcasts. Jade calls to Billy from a different table to sit with them. Why Billy wasn't seated with them already is kind of weird. Billy explains to Tammy that Jade is technically her twin sister because they had the same dad, but they had different egg donors, but were birthed at the same time. Tammy then calls Billy a freak. After just being denied by a different group of girls to sit with them, Tammy is very socially inept, it looks like. She then calls Billy stupid for being vegan.
Oh, I'm vegan. That's stupid.
She then brags about going hunting. I know that this girl is meant to be a bully, but this is all coming across a little forced, I think. They then start physically fighting each other for no reason, really. It's so weird. It's like this Tammy girl approached Billy just to be mean to her. Like, what? It's definitely not your stereotypical bully, you know? Normally, a bully has like a group of friends that they go around with that hype them up and give them confidence, but this strange girl is just a bully because she's a bully.
Okay, you know what?
Mean, for no reason. She's just a bitch. The next day, Billy pays Tammy a visit and then apologizes to her because Billy decides to be the bigger person, I guess. Billy reaches out a hand for a handshake. Tammy then takes her half-eaten burrito and shoves it into Billy's face. What is wrong with this girl? How is it possible for someone to be this demented? I've met a ton of bullies in my life, and I've been bullied myself, but